Everybody, it's 7 o'clock. Let's get this meeting going. Good evening and welcome everyone to the Grafton Select Board from May 3rd, 2022. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. First item on our agenda, I would like to ask everyone if they could please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, everybody. I've just got a few brief announcements here, and then we'll get into the public comment section. First up, on behalf of the town, the Select Board would like to recognize the week of May 1st through May 7th as Children's Mental Health Week. May 1st through the 7th, across the state, hundreds of families, youth educators, clinicians, and others promote awareness for children's mental health. This year's theme is Action Changes Things. The board has been asked to proclaim May 1st through 7th as Children's Mental Health Week with a proclamation. And I would ask the board if I could have a motion for tonight with this indulgence to sign on to this proclamation.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion made at second. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Declare the motion carried, and I'll send that around for signatures. Thank you. Second, just a reminder, everyone, that town meeting will be held on Monday, May 9th, starting at 7:30 p.m. in the auditorium at the Grafton High School. Please keep this in your schedules as well, but local elections will be held on Tuesday, May 17th. Please note that polls will be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Additional information can be found on the town clerk's webpage. The Recreation Department is accepting applications for a number of paid positions for the summer of 2022, including lifeguards, parking, snack bar attendants, assistant beach director, and summer days program counselors. View job descriptions, age requirements, and apply online at the graftonrec.com webpage. Also, there are opportunities for 14 and 15-year-olds as counselors in training at our Summer Days program. That's all the announcements I have for today. So first up, I think a lot of you are here for public comment. I would just like to give you some basic roundels so we can get through this tonight. If you'd like to come up for public comment, please raise your hand. I will recognize you as chair. And I would ask you to come up here and sit. Keep your comments as brief as possible and concise. And I would call up Ms. Vaca first. She had her hand up first. Good evening, Jen. Yep, have a seat.
Thank you. My name is Jen Vaca. I live at 4 White Birch Lane. I will start by reading a small selection of Facebook posts. These people are mostly brain dead. They believe whatever Maddow tells them. Obviously, we cannot stop Grafton Rise from existing as a group, but we have to do whatever we can to prevent their members from getting into town offices, unless we want a town full of racial division, hatred, and bullying tolerance. Who thinks she is talking about Grafton Rise and their not-so-secret agenda to take over Grafton? Let's not forget how important it is to vote, or their radical, woke minority wins. Systemic racism is a myth. No one is oppressed in this country unless they want to be. Low-income housing promotes lawlessness and anti-patriotism. These are just a small sample of Facebook posts written by members of the Grafton Group. At last week's CPC meeting, Paul Scarlett suggested that the CPC use this group to disseminate opposition to affordable housing representation on their committee. The Grafton Group is a hate group, defined by the Southern Poverty Law Center as an organization or collection of individuals that, based on their official statements or principles, the statements of their leaders, or its activities, have beliefs that attack or malign an entire class of people. I am not here to object to the right of Grafton Group members to have these views. The First Amendment applies to everyone. But it would seem a reasonable ask that municipal community members be able to recognize a hate group. Further, it would seem inappropriate for them to use a hate group to further their own ideological agenda. I request that the Select Board review their vetting procedures to ensure that members of hate groups do not become members of town committees. Further, I request the Select Board investigate DEI education for all employees and committee members. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks, Jen. Anyone else want to go next? Hi, if you could just come on up and just, could you state your name, please?
Sure. Is it okay if I stand?
Sure.
My back doesn't like sitting. Hi, I'm Rachel Gerstein. I live at 80 Weston Street. I'm not here to contest other issues pertaining to Weston Street. Wanted to follow up on what came to my attention about the April 28th meeting of the Grafton Community Preservation Committee. I've been trying to follow the different committees, mostly through Zoom, and I became aware that the meeting on April 28th was changed from the status quo of being in-person plus Zoom, like we are tonight, and there's still good reason to be doing that, to in-person only. As far as I could tell, and I'm happy to be corrected if I'm wrong, this change wasn't really publicized. I came to appreciate later that it was stated in the meeting agenda, but I just wanted to make the point that I don't think this is really in the spirit of the true, positive aspects of having a transparent government, to not give more notice about this change and publicize it. I'll note that the April 13th meeting was held by Zoom, although no minutes were posted for this meeting, nor have there been any minutes from this meeting since January. I really suspect this omission was quite intentional and was intended to prevent public discussion of the change to the bylaws that the CPC is going to be, discussed at town meeting. Now, is this just an arcane, issue of town governance? No, I really would argue not. These are decisions about how taxpayer funds are spent, who decides this, who gets to contribute to public discourse about these decisions. The Select Board has oversight of the CPC and is failing in its obligations to make sure the committee is operating in a transparent and ethical manner. At the meeting, CPC members suggested sharing their letter to All Things Grafton and the Grafton Group as a method to communicate their position. So this is really not equivalent to allowing people to attend and participate in the meeting and ask questions. And furthermore, as Jen Vacca was describing, the Grafton Group is a hate group. If the CPC is going to sink so low as to dog whistle an alliance with this group, any town committee member or elected official that agrees with this as a viable strategy should really be replaced, or at least, considered with a long discussion about the appropriateness of that. The CPC serves all Grafton residents. The repeated demonstrations of behavior by CPC members that do not embrace this ideal is really not okay. If no action is taken, you are condoning this. I'm active in groups in town that seek to foster engagement in public life and encourage people to serve in town committees, run for elected office. The unprofessional behavior of some members of the CPC and the failure of the Select Board to address this so far is problematic in my view, and I wanted to bring that to your attention, and thanks for your allowing me to make the statement.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Rachel. Anyone else like to make another comment? Public comment? Okay.
Oh, there's somebody in the back.
I'm sorry, I didn't, Rich, come on up.
Oh, it's Rich. The haircut. That's not Rich. No.
That's not Rich.
That's not Rich, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It looks like him.
I'm getting old, my eyes, I can't,
Yeah, who was it?
My apologies to Rich. If you could
That's
just state
all
your
right.
name, please. Thank you.
My name is Michael Karlstrom. I reside at 2 Rodney Street in Grafton, Massachusetts, and my comments are about the concerning the Holden Farm sunflower shanty. Dear Select Board members, it has come to my attention that there are some conflicting issues regarding the opening of the sunflower shanty at Holden Farm. I would like to take the opportunity to provide you with my observations about the time I spent there personally last summer. I found it to be a very enjoyable and relaxing experience. I was there frequently throughout the season, and it was always a community-oriented experience. It was a chance to meet and visit with my friends and neighbors in an environment that was always family-friendly and safe. More importantly, I found it to be a positive and educational opportunity for Grafton and beyond residents, especially young people, to learn how the farm contributes to our community, and to be able to interact with farm animals and see the work that goes on into providing people with the food that sustains us all, along with providing a wonderful, educational, and safe environment for children to see how a farm operates and enjoy being outdoors. Although I never personally observed any of the concerns that were aired at what I believe was the April 19th Select Board meeting, I would urge the town to do its best to work with Holden Farm and its neighbors to address and mitigate any legitimate concerns from the neighborhood so that Holden Farm can continue to provide such a beautiful community resource. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else would like to make a public comment? Yeah, come on up. You can have a seat or stand. Please just state your
Stand,
name.
please.
Yep.
My name is John Rill. I live at 78 Weston Road. I lived in there for almost over 30 years. I know both places, both people involved. And when somebody first asked me about Holden Farms, I said I love it. The reason I love it is because I can actually sit at my house, listen to the music. Sometimes I can hear the song, sometimes I can't. We have gone up there several times. We really had a great time. The openings, I know, is at 8:30. The bar closes. 9 o'clock, the shanty closes. The only thing I don't know is actually when does everybody leave? Is it half an hour later or an hour later? The noise, I really don't hear it, but I'm sure if you live close like the summer neighbors, it might cause them an issue. And my hope is that we can resolve this. Everybody is happy. You know, it's going to stay open, and also the noise level is going to go down for the neighbors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks so much.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I'm David Barnhart, 68 Weston Street. I just want to speak on behalf of Holden Farms as well. I'm a neighbor about a little more than a quarter mile down the street. I've had absolutely no issues whatsoever, and I think the fact that we have a group of young families that are working to actually make something of the farm instead of just sell off that land is something that's great for our community to be able to have that. I think the Holdens and the people working there, they work really hard. I think they do a fantastic job. I know that they're trying to be respectful to the point that when we first went there, we asked them if we could bring their dogs, and they're like, do you mind just waiting until we find out how the town reacts? And so, you know, I know that they're actually trying to get input. For neighbors that are closer, it might be different, but for us, I have absolutely nothing but praise for what I've seen there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else would like to make a comment?
Am I considered public comment or?
She's from the shanty.
I was gonna say, you're on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So if you want to hold off, that would be great. Thank you.
Sounds fair.
Okay. Anybody else in the public? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Susan Duval. I live at 82 Weston Street. And like a lot of the other people have said, Holden Farms is awesome, and I really enjoy going there myself. But I'm going to read the minutes from last year when the music entertainment license first came to be in June. And it says, ultimately, we are hoping to have music available on Friday evenings and a short set on Saturdays. Timing is yet to be finalized. I would imagine we would be inclined to book something like bluegrass, soft rock, or acoustic acts. Obviously, as the summer went on, additional acts were added. I don't think that evolved from that myself. I actually like going to the farm without the music there. And we generally will meet friends and chat, and the kids run around, and it's great. And so I just don't think that we necessarily need to have music. The schedule that's proposed every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from May 7th till October, and for the farm to succeed. I think the farm can succeed with the beer garden, all the wonderful things that they offer to families without having live music till 8 or 9 p.m. every Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So, thank you.
All right, thank you
Thank you.
very much. Anybody else in the public like to make a public comment at this time? Yes, sir. Just come up and just state your name, please.
Yep, Michael Farrelly from 83 Weston Street. It's about Holden Farm. This is, I guess, my response to Rachel Holden's letter. After reviewing Rachel's letter, she stated that my concerns were solely based on the hay rides. That was the end of a conversation I had with Tyler Holden in my driveway, which also included a verbal threat to me. My biggest concern is the noise from the noise the music makes. Sorry. The noise the music makes, so that we don't want to be in our own home where I want to raise my family. You can't get away from the music. You can't open windows if it's nice out. In my daughter's room, which is closest to the farm, even with the window AC units, you can still hear the music over it. It made it very hard last year when my then 1.5-year-old daughter, to be able to get her to bed for 8 when the music's going past that. My wife doesn't want to be home, or even take my daughter outside because it's, a lot louder out in the yard. I know it's specific to us being right against the farm. My wife's talking about wanting to move. We bought our home next to a farm, not a live music venue, and everything that comes with that. I never had any problems, hearing a tractor in the field working or any other part of a working farm. I think that's a great privilege, and it's very hard for families to stay together instead of splitting up a farm, which has happened in my family. So one example is if they cared about the neighbors, the air cannon they used to use, but they didn't use it last year. 2020 was the last year they had used it. They had it, my guess is about 75 feet from my front door in the corner of the field when my daughter was then 7 to 10 months old. I don't know. It's just, sometimes going as late as 9 at night. The same air cannon that they were bragging about that downtown Westboro residents were calling the police department wondering if it was safe to go outside. I've never complained about that before and had no intentions of that. I wasn't planning on speaking, but after Rachel's letter brought me into this, I just I just really want to see everybody just come to a conclusion that everyone's happy with. I'm not trying to put the farm out of business at all, just to come to a reasonable thing for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, sir. Just a reminder if you could just please state your name.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Bill Richlick, 88 Weston Street. I guess now I'm the social media bad guy. What I'd like to do is read the first sentence of the closing paragraph of the letter that I read at the other meeting. It is our hope that common ground can be reached. Never was it our intent, never was it ever mentioned to shut down the Sunflower Shanty. But a compromise needs to be reached. Non-stop music, the best time of the year, I look at the same views as the Sunflower Shanty, and now I can't enjoy them Friday through Sunday. It's a compromise. The residents and neighbors need some relief from the noise, and that's where the issue lies. It's not shutting down. It's not take liquor licenses away. Let's talk times in days, and that's what we want to see. The kids playing on the playground, we love looking out the window and seeing it. It's a great venue. I grew up on the farm. You know, I've been riding dirt bikes and walking, and you know, I love it too. And the hardest part is the fractured relationship that this is going to cause. We don't want it, but it's probably a natural thing. But in no way, shape, or form are we looking for a complete shutdown. That's not the intent. Never was, despite what everybody on social media wants to say. And they don't want to watch videos and evidently don't want to read letters. So it's in black and white. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Anybody else like to make a public comment, please? Raise your hand. All right, want to thank every, oh, I'm sorry. One more. Come on up, yes. Just ask if you could just state your name, please.
My name is Jesse Remillard. I live on 2 Mountain View Lane, right off of Western Road. I've lived there my entire life. My whole family has. And I want to just mention that we've loved the entire area. And that's, I mean, I have nothing but good things to say about Holden's Farm. Nothing good things to say about all my neighbors either. So I want that clear across board. But I want to make something clear about America in general. We have a tendency to not want anything in our backyards. We always want it in someone else's backyard. And we were a lot happier to go to the next neighbor and put it on them, and then go to that town over and enjoy their things that they have to give to us, and not have it in our own towns. Now, Holden's Farm, I know, creates some issues for neighbors and others around. Traffic, I don't know, but I'm not down that end. But it creates job opportunities for young kids and adults and others coming out of college. Creates a lot of things. But if we keep on pushing small businesses out, then they're going to go to other towns. And that's the mentality America has right now, which is, send it somewhere else. So I don't know. I kind of want to keep all our small businesses here in Grafton, which is beneficial to Grafton, in my opinion. So a compromise would be nice, because I'm deaf, so I can't hear anything down my end. So I don't know who it's affecting. I do enjoy going down there. My kids enjoy it, and we just love each other. So it would be nice having them stay there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have one member from the public who's an attendee. I'm going to bring them in to talk. I believe it's Bill Richlick Sr. Am I right?
If you got on Zoom.
Yeah. Bill?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Very short and very brief. At the recommendation of Evan, and I believe the board, from the last meeting, everyone's hopes was that we could sit down and find some common ground. On Sunday, I made that phone call. Rachel returned the call, said she talked to Trevor, and her comment was, we had our day on the 19th, they will have their day now. But no, thank you, they did not want to sit down to find common ground. That's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
One second here. Anybody else from the public out here? I've got one individual here, Tyler Holden. Hey, Tyler, are you there? Tyler, if you're there, you're on mute. You had your hand up.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Tyler, I just want to let you know you're on the agenda for later on. Do you want to let this wait for that part? Then we can conclude the comment and move along?
No. I just quickly wanted to state that I am unable and I am viewing through Zoom because I had some things come up. So on behalf of Rachel and my brother Trevor, I just wanted to say that Sunday, when Mr. Richel reached out to us, we were unable to meet because we had already had things to do. I am currently in the hospital and have been in the hospital since Sunday. So that was one of the main reasons that I was unable, to sit down and make a compromise. It's not that, none of us want to make a compromise. It's just undue to the certain circumstances, we weren't able to. And then also, I quickly would like to, I don't know if this is a spot to defend or not, but I by no means went down and verbally went after Mr. Forelli. I just went down to try to, as a nice concerned neighbor, bring it to his attention and see what his concerns were. So I just wanted to state that as well. I had some concerns on his land with negative effects to our agricultural operation. So if he took that as me coming at him for certain things, I apologize. But hopefully out of all of this, we can come to a compromise and everyone can live their lives and the shanty can be filled with good memories and great times from the community.
All right. Thank you, Tyler. I hope you're feeling better.
Thank you. Goodbye.
All right. Is there anyone else that would like to talk? Yes, sir.
Ken Rumlard, 2 Mountain View Lane. To elaborate on what my son Jesse was saying, in a time of need for the COVID, this was a godsend because it got people out of the houses and back together with each other, and it was such a godsend. I live behind 84 Western Road, so I am at that end of the farm. I literally walk there in 5 minutes. My son comes in from Sutton with his boys, and they spend a lot of time up there on Saturday and Sundays, enjoying the company of everybody else that is there, enjoying the whole festive part of it. I don't go personally because they're a lot younger than I am, a little bit young for my blood, but I sit on my front porch and I can hear everything that's going on. I'm not as deaf as my son, obviously. But it doesn't bother me one bit. But again, I'm behind 84. Bill and Jenna live at 88. So they're a little bit closer. They're right directly across the street. I'm not much further. I'm right across the street from Mike. And again, I think it was a godsend that we had this place to have people go to get away from the COVID and all that stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Rumlard.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Any other public comments, please? I want to thank everyone for that. I appreciate that. We're going to move on to our agenda. So the first thing we will take some things out of order tonight, but first and foremost, we do have a continuation of a public hearing for a liquor license amendment for Townhouse Tavern LLC at 1 Grafton Common. This is a meeting that was continued from February 1st and April 12th of 2022. And tonight we have with us Mr. Paget. Sean, can you hear us?
Do you want to
I
read the
can.
notice?
Meeting open?
It's a continuation of a public hearing. I don't believe we have to read the notice, do we?
We don't.
I didn't know if we continued it, that's all.
We did, yep.
Okay.
All right, let's go for it.
All right, so this is a continuation of the public hearing for this. All right, Sean, welcome back.
Thank you. Do you want me to?
We cannot hear you, sir.
I'm working on it. Hold on.
Oh,
I'm not muted. Can you hear me now?
we can hear you
We
now.
can. Hi, Sean.
Hi. Do you want me to just give a little summary as to what's happened since we last met?
I think that'll
Or do
be
you
fine.
want to,
If
how do you want
everyone's okay with
to
that?
approach?
Yep,
That
sounds
works for
good.
us. Go
That's
ahead.
great.
So a number of questions came up last time we were all together. The most significant was to go back to the planning board and see whether or not we needed a special permit. And if so, go through that process. We did, we did go back and get I think it's called a modification or a minor modification, the special permit to allow the tavern to use the space on the patio. That did pass the planning board unanimously at, I forget, I think it was March, a meeting a few weeks ago. We would have come back to you sooner, but there's a 30-day period that we had to wait to see if there was any objection to that special permit. There were none. We also over the last few weeks, did try to address all the questions that came up at the last meeting. So we amended the lease to recognize the fact that that patio space is part of the tavern lease, but it also specifically says that it's will be made available to all tenants at all times, so that all the other tenants have the rights to continue to use that space the way they have been. We also moved forward, and Evan put together a side letter to make it very clear that this area will be maintained by the tavern or by actually, Evan, I can't remember whether it said by One Grafton Common or the
Yeah. One Grafton Common, just to keep it consistent with the master lease.
so not by the tavern, but by the building LLC. And I think Evan's happy with that document. So I guess I think that we've kind of checked the boxes. Oh, sorry, there was one other thing that came up at the first meeting. Rich Whitney, I think, and also someone on the board. I think it started with Rich's comments, but I think maybe Colleen also asked that she wanted to make sure that the other tenants were not against this and were in favor of it. As part of the special permit process, the other tenants, Apple Tree, Beat Stand Studio, and Quite Fetching, all submitted letters of support, and that I guess should be part of the record as well. So I think we've checked all the boxes. So we're back here now and apologies for not being there in person. I'm out of town for a wedding this week, but I think we've answered the questions, but that's the summary, and open to any other questions that you might have.
All right, so this is a continuation of the public hearing. Does the board have any questions?
Yep, I do.
Right?
Sean, I read the approval from the planning board, and it stated that the gate and access to that area was not going to be allowed or going to be locked during the times that the tavern is open.
If it said that, then I misread it.
I may be wrong too. I may be wrong too, Sean. But that's what I thought. That's what I thought I read. That the gate, that gate that accesses that means of egress out of the town hall. I call it the town hall.
Right.
Is supposed to be locked. And Chris McGoldrick just got on. Maybe he can clarify this. Peter, can you let Chris on?
So and just while Chris is getting on, the way that the sort of what I had presented and how we think that we're best complying with the ABCC is that when the tavern is closed, that gate will not be locked. But when the tavern is open, that gate will be locked in some way, and then people would have to come through the tavern to use it, and we wouldn't keep anybody from using it.
Okay, that's exactly what I was talking about, Sean. Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Do you need Mr. McGoldrick to
Nope.
clarify anything?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
So I looked into the guidelines that they issued in April, and number 2, it specifically says that licensing authorities can apply reasonable conditions such as requirement of food service. And that was one of the things you stated to us when you first wanted to build this patio, is that you came to us because you wear 2 hats. You have a property management hat and a business owner hat, and you came with your property management hat on. You wanted to make this space beautiful for the common area, for the whole building. You didn't want to expand your business out there. You're not like the other businesses. You don't offer a food service. And then you came back to us a few weeks later with your business owner hat on, saying, hey, we have this space now. I'd like to expand into it. And then when the guidelines came out in April, it really is to me anyway, the way I view it is it's supposed to support outdoor dining, not outdoor drinking. And a lot of this feels like there's some conflicts, and for me, I just can't support modifying the license to go outside.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, sure, Sean.
I don't think that's a fair characterization. I don't think I came with one hat and said one thing and came with another hat and said something else. And I'm not sure why you're saying that. I did not say that. We originally started that whole project because of COVID and for the tavern. I said, in addition to that, we wanted to make it available to people in the building. But I don't understand why you're, suggesting that there's something untoward going on here. That's not a good thing to do.
Nope, and I'm not doing that.
So number one. Number two, I'm not, you said the guidelines in April. I'm not sure what that is. What were the guidelines in April?
So the state issued guidelines for outdoor alcoholic beverage service areas on April 7th, 2022. As somebody who serves alcoholic beverages, I figured you'd be aware of that.
Well, there are a lot of guidelines that are issued, and we had meetings with the planning board and the selectmen during April, so I wasn't sure what you were referring to.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm referring to the state's updated COVID guidelines on how they're going to be handling outdoor dining and alcohol beverages as they extended the COVID thing for the remainder of this year or this season or whatever they're calling it. But Sean, to reply to what you're saying is, I can send you the link to the meeting where you said all of those things. The hat thing, that's a direct quote from you. I have two hats. I'm wearing this hat today, and
I agree with that.
Okay.
I agree. I do wear two
so,
hats.
and I'm not
I agree
suggesting
that
anything untoward.
but-
I'm just repeating what you came to us and said to us, and
But
that's
you're
why I'm.
you're twisting
Sean,
the words to make it
Sean,
look as
Sean,
though
I'm going to stop you right there, please. One at a time, please. Please, one at a
Okay.
time. Colleen, you have the floor.
That's it. I'm not twisting anything. I'm not trying to make it sound like anything other than that. When you came before us and asked to build the patio, we were trying to ask you if this was your intent. There was some very direct questions about that, and you said it wasn't.
Mr. Padgett, I'm sorry. I have one question, Evan. This application that Townhouse Tavern is seeking is a permanent and not really governed anymore by COVID guidelines from the state for outdoor alcohol consumption. This is for permanent use, not to continue temporary use. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Does the COVID guidelines still apply to outdoor alcoholic consumption if it's on a permanent basis?
Probably not.
Okay.
Would be I did not do any research prior to that question. I'm just to be fair, I'm going with what my gut would tell me, which is no, right? So you're looking at this under section 12 of the law as far as what the ABCC would consider your delineation for the boundaries of your liquor license. I think that if we were talking about this with the sunset provision of when the state's exemptions under COVID end, then that would be the same process we did last year, which is has an end date. And I don't believe Sean's looking for an end date. This is a expansion under section 12 that would be there.
Permanently. Yeah.
this is exactly what we talked about during that meeting, which was that we recognized that this was being granted under COVID relief, and that if we were to come back, we wanted to see how it went. And if we were to come back, we would come back and just like any other business would, just going through the process like any other bar or restaurant in town. So I
Any
think we
members
did
from the
talk
public
about-
would like to weigh in on this? Is a public hearing. Anybody from the Zoom meeting would like to raise their hand? This is a public hearing. I'm sorry. Yes, please come up. Just ask if you'd state your name again, please.
David Barnhart, 68 Weston Street. I believe I spoke at the last time that this issue came up, but I just want to reiterate that that outdoor area is just fantastic for the community. It's an opportunity for people to go there, for people to talk. You don't have, you've got the younger people that hang out in the bar, the older people go outside, we can have conversations, people can bring their dogs. You've got the other tenants who are coming through there. Once again, I think this is just great for a sense of community, and they keep it under control. I've never seen any problems in the tavern at all. I mean, a liquor establishment, and I've never seen any issues there whatsoever. They run a very tight ship there. I think that outside area is just, it is extremely beneficial to the sense of community that we should have. And I think that's something that Grafton should really want to keep as a small town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Sean, was there any? I'm sorry, yes, come on up, please.
Do I need to repeat my name and everything? Or?
Please,
Okay.
for the record.
Jesse Remillard. I live on 2 Mountain View Lane. Is this a porch? Like off of a restaurant?
It's a brick patio.
It's a
Brick patio?
in the back of one grass.
So we're just talking about an adult over 21 just wanting to have a beer with his dinner or a glass of wine.
No dinner.
No dinner?
They don't serve food.
Just adults or a couple like romantics having a glass of wine, something like that.
Well, there's a lot of children
That's all.
go through the area. He's asking, so I'm responding.
But yes, yes.
Okay. That's it. All right.
Thank you. Is there any other comments from the public? Sean, do you have
Hey,
any?
Peter,
I'm sorry.
Peter, just one thing. It's not that we don't serve any food. We do serve some sandwiches. We do serve pizza. We do serve pretzels and that sort of thing. It's just that we're not a restaurant, right? That's not our primary business.
Yep.
But people could sit down and have a sub or a pizza or a pretzel with a glass of wine or a beer. In terms of the comment about a lot of children coming through, we have, and I'm not sure how you keep how the records are kept there, but as part of the record, we did have very positive letters from the two organizations in the building who serve those children and the parents of those children, and as well as another organization that has a lot of people coming in with their pets, and they were all very positive. They all enjoy having the patio there, and they'd like to see it. They'd like to see us doing more there, actually.
Okay. Thank you. Doreen?
Yeah, I don't want to drag it on too much. I just want to understand Colleen's point a little more, because I'm in favor of supporting this, and I just want to understand, is it about the fact that food is not served with alcohol? Is it the children who are also in the building? Or is it this permit? I'm trying to get to like the root of the problem to see if there's a solution we can come up with.
No, I don't think there is just one root of it. You know, when I read the lease, I read it differently, so I'm not sure which lease he modified, specifically if he modified the lease between himself, where he's the property manager, and the tenant, or if he modified it with the town. I wasn't going to get into that, but that's something I'm thinking about. The ABCC, I spoke to Ralph Sacamone, if I'm saying that correctly, and he said they intentionally wrote these this way for the licensing authorities to put in any reasonable conditions they felt would work. And for me, this is just a common area. If Quite Fetching wanted to do, doggy lessons and potty training there, I wouldn't be in favor of that either, because it would be unfair to the townhouse. I truly believe that it was sold to us as it would be a common area for everybody to use, and this restricts that use, and that's what it comes down to for me. And then talking about the children, I attended all of those public hearings during the planning board process, and quite frankly, I thought it was laughable that they were having a child-friendly bar. But again, that's working for them, so good for them. But
what do you mean by a child-friendly bar?
Well, they had people standing up and saying it's a safe space for children. It's a bar.
Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to hear your concerns, because from my standpoint, it has always been a part of the Townhouse Tavern. I think that's what Sean has communicated from my standpoint, and I think as he's managing One Grafton Common, he has done his diligence in reaching out to all other parties involved, such as Quite Fetching, for example, and really just allowing the support to go throughout the building, that anyone can use that patio if they want to. And it sounds like the Townhouse Tavern would also allow anyone else to use that, and they'd be happy to not serve liquor if someone else or another business was coming in and using that. And so I see it, and I guess, you know, this is an interesting conversation because we're also talking about another bar outside tonight, that it's like, you know, where do you draw the line between kids are walking by to Apple Tree Arts and there's also a bar? Well, that's kind of the beauty of a mixed use space as well. And I think that as long as everything's being managed, that it's fine, and it went through the process. So I just kind of wanted to understand your viewpoint, just because I have a different one.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, that happens.
All right, any further public comment before we move on?
Hey, Peter, just one other thing. I did, Evan has a copy of the amendment to the lease, which is a lease between the building and the Townhouse Tavern. It's not part of the master lease. It's just not, it wouldn't be in the master lease. So, Evan's got the wording. It's pretty, I can read it to you, but it's pretty much what I said earlier.
Does the board need that read to us?
No.
Okay. All right. If there's any further public comment, I can entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Carry 4-1 in favor of closing the public hearing. Business in front of us tonight.
Closing the public hearing.
Yeah. It's okay. The business in front of us tonight is to approve or deny an application to amend an all alcohol liquor license filed for the Grafton Townhouse LLC doing business as the Townhouse Tavern to include outdoor dining and serving. Is there any further questions? I can entertain a motion.
I move the board vote to approve the application to amend the existing all alcohol liquor license as filed for the Grafton Townhouse LLC DBA, the Townhouse Tavern, to include outdoor dining and serving.
Second.
Motion made at second. Any discussion on that motion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Declare the motion carried 4-1. All right. Thank you very much, Sean, for coming in tonight. Have a great wedding. I know it's not yours, but
Thank you for your time, and I really appreciate it.
take it. Thank you.
Thank you.
With the board's permission, I think I want to move some items here out of order. With us tonight, we have an open mic issue here.
No, I think we got it.
There we go. Thank you. Hey, welcome to Zoom meetings. So I would like to ask the board if we can just move one item out of order tonight, and that is we have Chris McGoldrick here tonight with us to talk about MBTA multifamily zoning mandates presentation update, master plan proposal update, and hazard mitigation update. Is the board okay with just moving that up front, and then we can get into a couple of quick one-day beer and wine licenses, and then we can get into sunflower shanty.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay, let's do it. All right. So we're going to take items G, H, and I out of order. Tonight we have with us Mr. McGoldrick.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for having me tonight for those three items. I'd like to start with the MBTA communities. I have Gabe Trevor and Nina Weisblatt from CMRPC on the call with me tonight as well. CMRPC, we did receive technical assistance from them. They've provided a presentation on this briefing for the MBTA communities. I know we did discuss this prior in February and went over the regulations at that time. There's been some updates, but they have a comprehensive briefing. This is part of the requirements for compliance. So I'm happy to turn it over to Gabe and Nina to present to you tonight.
Good evening, Gabe. Nina, welcome.
Good evening. Yeah, thank you to everyone for having us tonight. So yeah, I'm just going to go through the presentation. It's comprehensive, but it shouldn't take too long. And then Nina, Chris, and myself will take we'll take questions at the end of the presentation just to keep because a lot of questions you may have, I think, are answered throughout the presentation. So, oh, I guess Chris's screen share. Or yeah, okay, great. I have apologies for I have a more up-to-date version of the presentation that there's some errors in this that are to localize it to Grafton. I'd like it to be more Grafton specific, but
So
anyway,
we can give you the opportunity to share, and then you can.
yeah. Just I have a more
Sure.
a current draft of that. Sorry.
You should be able to share now.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. How's that look?
Good. Says Grafton.
Okay. Great. So yeah, tonight we're just going to discuss the town's requirements for compliance under Section 3A of the Zoning Act, some of the background on that act, and what's required of the town, given that Grafton has a train station in your borders. The compliance is actually fairly straightforward compared to some of the other towns. So I hope this clarifies any questions. And like I said, any questions, I'm happy to take some at the end of this presentation. So just for some background, I'm sure members of the select board and the public are aware, but Massachusetts has some of the highest and fastest growing home prices and rents in the US. The state has a shortage of an estimated 200,000 housing units. Low and middle income households, such as young families, workers, and seniors, face increased financial pressure from housing costs. The lack of housing production is an impediment to community development and a competitive disadvantage to our economy and job growth. Municipalities play a key role through zoning and permitting in determining whether housing is constructed. And so, like I said, this is basically, because of the town's key role in this, this is a mandate from the state to modify the zoning bylaw to help to try to address this crisis, focusing on towns with transit. And so there was an economic development bill passed in the legislature in December of 2020 and signed by Governor Baker in January of last year. The bill included a range of housing provisions, including lowering the threshold for town meeting votes for certain zoning provisions. And then Section 18 of the Economic Development Bill includes Section 3A, which we're discussing tonight, which encourages designated MBTA communities to adopt zoning districts where multifamily zoning is permitted by right, and then meet other requirements set forth in the statute. So Grafton isn't alone. There are 175 municipalities subject to this new law. In central Massachusetts, there's basically two types of communities that are relevant. As you can see in dark green on this map, you have a commuter rail community, which would be any town with a commuter rail station within its borders or within 0.5 miles of its border. And then an MBTA adjacent community, which is in light green on the map. So that would be like Upton or Northbridge, which abuts a rapid transit community, bus service community, or commuter rail community. And so basically the mandate is that the town must create a district where multifamily housing is allowed by right at a minimum density of 15 units per acre. The districts must contain at least 50 acres of land. This can be done through overlay districts, but one part of that district must contain at least 25 contiguous acres of land, and no part can contain less than 5 contiguous acres of land. So, you need to have at least one section that's 25 acres, and you can put other sections around town, but they can't be, smaller than 5 acres. So you can't, focus on just like individual acre parcels or something along those lines. Site plan approval may be required, but it cannot be used to deny a project or impose conditions that make a project infeasible or impractical to build. And so 15 units per acre sounds like a lot, but there's actually several different ways this could be done to fit different, development styles that, might fit what different towns want. I think these graphics present some good potential ways to implement 15 units per acre. You can have townhouses, where they're all in a row. You can have duplexes. You can have carriage houses, where basically you'll have multiple houses around a common driveway. And then you can have suburban loft and garden flat, which, basically I think is kind of similar to duplexes, but it looks like has a common green area. So, different other towns in Massachusetts have implemented this sort of higher density zoning, and it doesn't have to look like, big apartment blocks. So there's a couple different measures to determine reasonable size. So obviously the floor is 15 units per acre, and with 50 acres, which would be 750 multifamily units. But on top of that, there's an additional requirement where basically 10% the multifamily capacity has to be equal to or greater than 10% of the total housing stock. And so based on the 2020 census count of housing stock, so since in 2020 Grafton had 7,760 units, that would mean that the total capacity would have to be 776 multifamily units, which per acre is about 15.5 units per acre. So not terribly different from the state minimum. Existing multifamily units inside the district's boundaries would count towards both units and density. And then when you're estimating how many units can be constructed on each parcel of developable land within the district, the estimate should consider the amount of developable land, any height limitations, lot coverage limitations, maximum floor area ratio, setbacks, and parking space requirements, and other restrictions or limitations in other bylaws. So to get to that density, might require changing some other underlying zoning, depending on the town's circumstances. And, Chris can speak to that better than I can. And so, like I said, for a town like Grafton, which has a transit station within its boundaries, it's actually quite easy. And we have on the next slide, we have a graphic. Basically, there's a 0.5 mile radius around the transit station. And at least half of the district's land has to be within that 0.5 mile radius, if that is possible. DHCD strongly encourages cities and towns to consider multifamily districts where there is existing or planned pedestrian and bicycle access to a transit station, or that otherwise are in areas of concentrated development. Regardless of location, each community must demonstrate that the zoning allows for multifamily housing that meets or exceeds that required unit capacity and at a density that meets the statutory minimum. And so we have this map that CMRPC put together that I think shows, where this district could be located around the transit station. Obviously, you'd exclude any part that's in Shrewsbury, but that makes Shrewsbury also a transit community. But basically, as you can see, it overlaps into a lot of office light industrial zoning and a segment of your R40 residential zoning. And so, like I said, half of that, so basically 25 acres of this district has to be within this radius. And, additionally, there probably are going to be further guidelines about how that's defined, the possibility thing, because, this is a lot of towns who are facing these mandates. And there was a time for public for comment from planning boards and select boards in the past couple months. So the way to determine, is it impossible for your town to follow these guidelines is probably going to be better clarified in the next couple of years. And I'll get to that. There's actually quite a bit of time for towns to implement this. So I expect some changes will be happening. So basically, on top of that, there can't be any age limitations on these districts. They're trying to focus these units to allow families with children to live in them. So the multifamily zoning district cannot include units with age restrictions and cannot place limits or restrictions on the size of the units, the number of bedrooms, the size of the bedrooms, or the number of occupants. And so I expect that if there was any sort of senior housing, that would not count toward your minimum, because that would count as restricted housing. So something else that's important to clarify, the draft guidelines are not a production mandate. It's not up, to the town to see that these are constructed. This is a separate measure from 40B. There's no requirement or expectation that the district is built out to its full capacity. The market has to dictate what can be built. That being said, towns, I think, do have an opportunity to use this district to try to meet their Chapter 40B obligations. Because, if you're allowing affordable housing in this multifamily district, this is just giving incentive to developers to build there, might have an opportunity for a friendly 40B or something along those lines. So it's not a production mandate by any means, but, it does kind of interact with 40B in a way that I think furthers the goals of both of these pieces of legislation. And so there are consequences for towns if you don't comply with the new legislation. The town will not be eligible to apply for MassWorks infrastructure programs funds, housing choice initiative funds, local capital projects funds, and it would create the strong likelihood that DHCD would take non-compliance into consideration when making other discretionary grant awards. So, it would hurt the town's, any other development plans that are relying on public money from the state. So the compliance timeline, there is, I think, a bit of time for the town to get in compliance. Like I said, March 31st was the deadline for public comments on draft guidelines. May 2nd was the deadline to hold a briefing with the select board. Like Chris said, you guys discussed this in February, so you are in compliance there. But this is just basically what we did to other towns to bring them into compliance, and also to submit the community information form, which Chris has worked on. December 31st is the deadline for interim compliance. And so basically the town needs to notify DHCD that there is no existing multifamily district that fully complies with these guidelines as described in Section 9C of the guidelines. So there's going to be an application form for that when the guidelines are final, so sometime this year. This is basically, to ensure that if a town does have these districts in place already, they don't have to go through with this process. But I don't believe there's any towns in central Massachusetts that CMRPC is working with that fall in line with these guidelines, currently. Then July 1st, there has to be an action plan submitted to DHCD. So basically the town will put together an action plan, and CMRPC is helping towns with that, that shows how they're going to comply with the compliance timeline. By the end of 2023, December, there's the deadline for adopting new zoning. So, basically, probably by the fall meeting, you should have that zoning passed at town meeting, implementing the action plan that you submitted to DHCD earlier in the year. And then March 31st, 2024 is the deadline for determination of compliance. So yeah, I think, the town actually has, basically a couple of years, about maybe like a year and a half, 2 years to put together the zoning for this. And CMRPC is obviously here as a resource to assist the town with that. And so for the public and for the, select board, planning board, anyone, any town staff, there are some good resources that we linked. There's a housing toolbox for the MBTA zoning technical assistance with frequently asked questions, steps your community can take while guidelines are being finalized. There was a community zoning webinar in January. There will be a GIS mapping tool to explore possible configurations for multifamily zoning districts and confirm that zoning districts will meet state guidelines. And then Mass Housing Partnership is completing a project to map every parcel in Mass and all existing housing densities on every parcel so communities are able to align proposed new districts with existing densities and development patterns. And then Mass Housing Partnership is a great resource for technical assistance. They'll be updating the housing toolbox, and their staff is probably much more informed on this than I am. And they are they're partnering with 12 communities to help with their zoning requirements. Katie from MHP, their senior planner, Katie Lacey. I've talked to her a number of times. She's a great resource, and they also have a mapping and analysis technical assistance from their Center for Housing Data. CMRPC, we've been allocated district local technical assistance funding for this year to help our designated MBTA communities to meet the Section 3A compliance. At the end of this, if you want to reach out to me by email, we're helping a number of towns with this. EEA Planning Assistance Grant Program, up to $50,000 per proposal to implement land use regulations consistent with land conservation and development objectives and provision of sufficient and diverse housing. So, zoning changes could be implemented and funded through that. And then the fiscal year 23 Community One Stop for Growth. There are programs like the Housing Choice Grant Program, the Community Planning Grants, and the Rural and Small Town Development Fund that MBTA communities can apply for. So, there is a lot of compliance that the town will have to participate in, but, thankfully you do have, a town planner and a planning department, and CMRPC is here to help and, guide you through funding any changes that you want to do. And so, you can reach out to me by email at gtrevor@cmrpc.org. Obviously, you can reach out to Chris if you want. But, at this time, I guess we'll take questions.
Thanks, Gabe. Does any of the board members have any questions on the presentation?
Very informative. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Gabe?
Yeah.
Yeah, just a quick question. I'm shocked that, so the state, I get this, just a comment that I'm surprised that they didn't have an affordability component with this MBTA district, but I'm wondering, as we implement our MBTA district, can we include a requirement for affordability?
Yeah, I believe you can. I mean, it could be like any sort of inclusionary zoning bylaw would count towards it. I think the main thing is they don't want restricted zoning. A lot of towns generally don't want multifamily housing, but they're okay with senior housing.
Right.
But the state definitely, the laws currently encourage affordable housing, even if they don't always meet those goals. So, I mean, Chris, if you want to comment on this, but like I said, I think it's supposed to complement Chapter 40B and kind of give the town another carrot or stick to reach those 40B goals.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Anybody else on board? Doreen?
Yeah, I didn't hear you bring up mixed use at all, and I just didn't know if that was an option as well, or if it was just housing.
Yeah, so the main thing is that they want, the main number they're concerned about is this, 700, in Grafton's case, 776 housing units.
Sure, yeah.
We discussed this. So for towns without an MBTA zoning district, they encourage, or without a transit place to sort of orient their district, they encourage that the districts are put in a place that kind of encourages best practices and like complete streets and transit oriented zoning. So if this was implemented in a mixed use district, as long as that housing is coming in with the other uses, it would comply with the law. It's really about the raw unit numbers,
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Doreen,
And then,
are you thinking about the Pine Street?
I am. So
Yeah.
that was sort of my follow-up question to Chris too, which, how does Pine Street fit into this mandate requirement, if at all?
Thank you. Yeah, so that was actually one of the comments that we submitted during the public comment phase, looking at specifically that unit count and if that would be considered as new construction under the zoning and contribute to that. We have not received a response on that yet, and nor do I really anticipate one, but hopefully they're considering that and we'll continue to monitor it. In terms of the zoning district itself, the North Grafton Transit Village overlay complies with the unit density requirements and many of the other requirements of that zoning district. However, it's only, I believe, 9 acres in size, and so it doesn't meet the 50-acre requirement. So there may be opportunity to expand that zone or utilize that zone on other parcels to potentially meet the requirement.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, thank you, Gabe, for that update and
No problem.
presentation.
Thank you.
It was very informative. To be continued. All right. Next up, we have a master plan proposal update. Chris McGoldrick.
Thank you again for having me tonight. So the master plan update, the plan department and town administrator's office developed a request for proposals and submitted that to update our comprehensive master plan, which at this point is fairly overdue, if you allow me that characterization. We did receive one bid proposal from CMRPC for completing the master plan update. I believe that was provided in the meeting materials. Found it to be highly responsive to the RFP criteria. We did present those materials as well to the planning board, who reviewed the proposal and submitted a recommendation to proceed. And I'd just like to say that the planning department would echo that sentiment. We find CMRPC to be a highly capable organization and very capable of doing a good job on this proposal. So.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I'm excited to get started.
Me
All right.
too. Really excited.
Some real municipal geeks up here, Chris.
Bring it on.
We can't wait.
The next up, we just have last update.
You gotta,
I'm sorry.
you gotta vote to authorize me to sign that
We
contract.
do have.
Yes.
Okay. Bring that up so it's under section 8.
Second and so moved. Aye. Okay.
You want to sit here instead?
Thank you. Go ahead. Yep.
I move the board vote to authorize the town administrator to enter into a contract with CMRPC on behalf of the town for services related to the development of a comprehensive master plan as presented in the submitted bid proposal.
Second.
Motion made in second. Any discussion on the motion? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Declare the motion carried unanimous. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next up, you can't go yet, Chris. We have a hazard mitigation update.
Thank you, members of the board. The hazard mitigation plan update. We did have a draft hazard mitigation plan, which has been provided in the meeting materials tonight. This plan has been developed by the consultant VHB in coordination with the hazard mitigation plan update committee, which consisted of a number of resident volunteers as well as staff and resident and organization stakeholders. The hazard mitigation plan, the next steps to have it completed are opening it up for public comment prior to submittal to MEMA for their final review. If the board is okay with it, I'd like to open that comment period and have it publicized. Comments would then be due by May 27th, which will meet the two-week criteria. And that gives us a little bit of leeway as well for the 2 weeks, given town meeting date. I didn't want to really conflict with that, as I know people's schedules will probably be very full. The outreach program would consist of submitting the plan to surrounding communities by mail for their comment, online social media posting, a newspaper post, and I'd like to reach out to the library as well to have a posting, and I can provide a copy as well for them to allow the public to review at that location as well.
Chris, what were those dates again that you were thinking?
So I would kind of start that outreach as of tomorrow, and it would be open until May 27th.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Chris? Doreen?
Yeah, Chris, so this is going to be approved by MEMA and FEMA before that's the final step, right?
Well, yeah, correct. So the first step is to have the public input, and obviously, if there's any edits, we'll incorporate those as necessary before submitting to FEMA and MEMA. So on May 27th, we would take one final review of anything received, incorporate it into the plan, and then submit it to FEMA and MEMA for their final blessing, if you will.
Okay. So I don't know if this has come up or if it's maybe something I can just bring up during the public outreach session. This happens to be a little bit in my wheelhouse because I do climate change adaptation planning, and the state is going to be requiring climate change adaptation to be part of the HMP process as well. And I'm really happy to see that Grafton is updating this plan now because it's expired, because it's a 2016. But because we're so quick to make those changes, I just don't want it to, then not include something that we have to go back and do it again. So we may just want to look at that portion through the MVP process as well and just make sure we're adding a climate change adaptation perspective on the document.
Thank you. I'll make a note of that.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the board? No? All right, there is no action tonight that is required for this. This is just an update. Chris, thank you very much for coming in tonight. Appreciate that.
Thank you. A lot
We'll
of
look
good
forward
stuff.
to those dates and seeing that come about.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
night. All right, thank you very much, everybody. We wanted to get through with that with some of our staff here tonight, so we're going to now, next thing we're going to take out of order is we're going to take the music license applications for Holden Farms and Sunflower Shanty. And tonight, we have the applicants for the outdoor music license here in attendance. If they would be so willing to want to come up and maybe sit down, and we can address some of the concerns.
If you need an extra, you can just wheel this one over. So you don't have to. You don't have to.
Good evening. Hi, and thank you for coming in tonight. Could you just introduce yourselves for the public?
My name is Rachel Holden. Kaylin Kubert.
Trevor Holden.
All right, thank you very much for coming in tonight. All right, so in front of us tonight, board, we have a music license applications for Holden Farms and Sunflower Shanty. Does the board do you want to open up with any comments before we start asking some questions?
Rachel has a lovely letter.
Well then, the board commission, yep, go ahead and read it.
Alrighty. Members of the board, thank you for having us, and I do need to add my apologies on our lack of presence at the last meeting. I won't make excuses, but I will say sick kids, and I'm very sorry. My name is Rachel Holden, and I'm one of the owners of Holden Sunflower Shanty alongside my brother-in-law, Trevor Holden. Let me start off by saying we are so incredibly hurt by the falsified and fabricated allegations made against us before the board at the last meeting, and I'm here to let our community know, as well as our displeased neighbors, that we hear you, and we would like to tell you about the plans we have in place for the future of the shanty. Last year was our first year in business, and certainly was a learning experience, to say the least. Now that we have some knowledge on how things will operate, we are better suited to make decisions and plans for the upcoming season. I met my now husband and his family nearly 10 years ago. We didn't have children at the time, so we spent our free time envisioning the possibilities of the future of Holden Farm. I could even pull out some old drawings, and you would be quite surprised to see how we've brought our once dreams to fruition. In 2014, we found out we would be expecting our first child in the following July, which sent us back to the drawing board. What could we do to attract families here to enjoy the great outdoors and put down their phones and relax? How could we make this seasonal operation more sustainable for our growing family, now families? Then in 2015, Ruth and Howard, my husband's grandparents, gave Tyler and his brother Trevor their blessing to carry Holden Farm into the next generation, for the community to enjoy the fruits of our labor for the decades to come. It was then that we realized the countless hours we had spent planning for the future had finally paid off. As a seasonal operation, we derive our income from a few short months of operation. Over the last few years, as prices have increased across the board, minimum wage, fuel, etc., so has our overhead, resulting in a smaller profit margin. The addition of Holden Sunflower Shanty has been so transformative to our business and is an aspect we so desperately need. Welcoming local vendors and artists to the farm, providing them a platform to exhibit their product, and in turn attract a new population of guests to the farm. It has taken that customer who was stopping by the farm stand to buy some fruit and vegetables and then leave into, oh, let's make an afternoon out of it. They'll grab some lunch, have a beer, and enjoy time with family. Turning that quick $20 visit into an extended stay at the farm and spend a little bit more money. The permits we have obtained for our beer and wine sales allow us to be open until 9 p.m. I find it concerning that Mr. Richlick claims our live music carries on late into the night. I suppose we all have our own definition of what is considered to be late into the night. However, our live music concludes at 8:30. There were 3 occasions when I heard from our displeased neighbors, first being on Sunday, September 26th, when Mr. Richlick Jr. reached out to me via text message at 1:08 p.m., which leads me to question, is the issue before us live music going in late into the night, or is it issue simply the music in general? On Friday, October 1st at 7:25, Jen Richlick sent me a text message also stating the music was too loud, to which I kindly obliged and the music was lowered. I did not hear from Jen again, and I thought it was safe to assume all was resolved. On Saturday, October 23rd, Mr. Richlick Jr. reached out for the final time regarding the volume of the music, and again, we kindly obliged. Nothing further was exchanged, and I thought all was well. Had the Richlicks simply came and spoke with us prior to approaching the board, we could have avoided all of this and come to a resolution as adults. This upcoming season, we have a decibel meter. We do not believe the volume of our music is of the illegal nature, but we will be closely monitoring it. Many of our bands have reached out to us regarding this matter in question. They understand the concerns of the Richlicks and our other neighbors and are more than willing to alter their performances to appease all. Going forward, we would like to accommodate our neighbors by ceasing to have live performances on holidays. With that being said, unfortunately, we are unable to cancel our Mother's Day performance due to the essence of this last-minute complaint. I was completely taken by surprise, as was our whole family, when Mr. Richlick claimed that we were selling after hours, and more shocked when he states that liquor was being sold, which would be against the guidelines of our permit and blatantly illegal. We have no desire to serve liquor, as we are not a nightclub nor a bar for people to get annihilated at, but rather a unique, family-owned business looking to attract other families to enjoy one another's company and the great outdoors. We have never illegally sold liquor at our establishment, and this obvious exaggeration of the truth is a ploy to discredit our positive reputation. My name is on this business now, and I would never do anything to intentionally threaten that. With reference to the after-hour sales claimed by Mr. Richlick, I find that completely unfounded, as last call is 8:45 and the serving windows on the shanty close promptly at 9 p.m. We hope you will honor our beer and wine permits that have already been issued and allow us to continue these same hours. Last year, as I said, we operated the shanty alongside business partners and were on the property every evening because this is our livelihood. We have put everything on the line and will do nothing to jeopardize this or our future. Our staff for the upcoming season have all been properly trained in tip certification. Each member of our staff has a signed documentation acknowledging the signs of intoxication and understanding the procedures that would follow. Our staff is also unwilling to jeopardize their employment with us, as the breaking of our policy standards would result in immediate termination. With that being said, not once did I witness an intoxicated person. Not once did I witness an altercation between patrons, aside from some children on the playground. Not once did I hear yelling. Again, that's aside from some children happily playing and having the best times of their lives. Not once did I witness people openly urinating in plain view of the road. Is it possible someone took their child behind the building and squatted them down to pee? Absolutely. But I don't believe any of our patrons have the flagrant disregard for our business nor themselves to publicly urinate on the side of the road. As I've said before, we are learning as we go and aiming to better predict the events of the future. In our last season, we began the year with 2 portable toilets. By the end of the season, we had 3. To prepare for this upcoming season and to ensure there is no public urination, we will add an additional portable toilet. After reviewing the list of signatures Mr. Richlick obtained, we have approached some of the complainants, Mr. Farrelly being one of them. Again, we wished Mr. Farrelly approached us about this matter prior prior to having it come to the board. Mr. Farrelly's concern was based on the hay rides we provide for educational and agritourism purposes. He felt his privacy was invaded to some extent as our hayride brought the riders along the edge of our field, which directly abuts Mr. Farrelly's property. We have assured him that going forward, we will reroute our hayrides and respect his privacy. We have invited him to contact us in the future with any issues that may arise. We had one private event hosted at the shanty last year in the evening hours, which also had a DJ. Unfortunately, we learned our lesson the hard way, and a DJ has not played at the farm since. Again, we are good people. We do not want to ruffle any feathers. We are new to this, but we are willing and open to making accommodations that will suit all parties involved. We at Holden Farm have always taken great pride in the cleanliness of our operation. As we have opened the shanty, that same regard and love for our property is carried over. There are a great number of trash and recycling receptacles at various points on the farm, and we canvass the area at closing time to ensure there is no litter to be left. Our patrons are members of this community and respectful. I would like to think it is safe to speak on behalf of our patrons and say that they are not the ones littering the streets with glass bottles, as Mr. Richlick has claimed. I would like to point out that we do not serve beer in glass bottles, only cans and 100% biodegradable and compostable cups. Not that that is any excuse for litter. Have you ever seen a Harvey's automated truck dump recycling? Whatever doesn't make it into their dump body is then floating atop the truck until it is blown about the streets of our town. Who is to say that is not where the litter originated? I believe it is unjust to attribute litter that I rarely see on our streets to the opening of our establishment. With that being said, I, Rachel Holden, give you my word that I will dedicate one day after every weekend to ensure that Wesson Street and the immediately surrounding area is canvassed for cans or litter. Prior to meeting my husband, I spent my entire life working in the solid waste industry, so please trust me when I say I have a zero tolerance policy for litter. As for Mr. Richlick's traffic concerns, we take the safety of our community, whether they be patrons, bicyclists, runners, etc., very seriously. The volume of traffic has increased over the years, even prior to the creation of the shanty. New developments have been erected off of Morgan Drive, and there is more proposed housing in the surrounding areas, such as on Institute Road. Grafton is growing. This is a good thing for our lovely town. In the future, for the safety of those traveling near our establishment or visiting our establishment, we will hire a detail officer when we are hosting events that would increase traffic volumes, such as the Stephen Roney Cornhole Tournament, as well as any events in partnership with the Grafton Recreation Department. With respect to the parking on the side of Wesson Street and the attendance exceeding parking capability, I believe that has become nearly non-existent since we extended our parking lot behind the farm stand in 2021 prior to our opening. To further prohibit illegal and dangerous parking, we will post no parking signs on either side of the road approaching the Wesson Street Old Westboro Road intersection. We also will close the front parking lot of our farm stand on Saturday and Sunday to prevent the dangers of backing out into an intersection. Thank you to the board for having us here this evening and giving us the time to present you with our proposition. Thank you to the over 1,000 members of the community and surrounding area who have signed the online petition. Those of you who have reached out in support and with written letters posted online that they've experienced while at the shanty, we send a huge thank you. I would like to speak on behalf of all of us at the shanty and Holden Farm that you have our word that we will abide by any and all rules set forth. This has been a learning experience, and I think with the plans we have in motion and the knowledge from the previous season, it can only lead to an even better, more pleasant season ahead. While we are diving headfirst into this season solo, we promise to do everything in our power to keep this operation running as smoothly as possible. We want to work together to ensure the community can appreciate this space for the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Ray?
I've been there. It's great. You know, I've been to the cornhole tournament, lost. But it's great. But we have an issue.
Yes, we do.
And the issue isn't really anything that you brought up in your letter. The issue is music and the noise created by music. Now, I know you're going to have a decibel meter and everything like that, but two people playing acoustic guitars and two people playing acoustic amplified guitars. It's totally different. A band with a set of drums and a bass and possibly horns or whatever is totally different than that one person or two people playing an acoustic guitar that's unamplified. That's what the neighbors, I think, from what I've been hearing, that's what the neighbors are complaining about. I don't think they're complaining about the way you guys operate the place, the events that go on, or anything like that. It all has to do with the music. So, hang on. I'm talking now. You get to read your letter, I'm talking. So, something has to be done with the music. And it's not a meter. Something, either a sound engineer has to come in, and trust me, I don't want you to pay a sound engineer or anything like that. But there's gotta be some type of sound barrier that you could put up around the back of the band or the guitarist or whatever it is, that's not going to allow that music to reverberate into these houses. Now, all the people, and I've talked to some of the people, all the people that bought houses out there, and you get up in the morning and you hear the birds and it's nice and quiet. I get up in the morning and I walk out into my backyard and I hear the Mass Pike. And I have heard the Mass Pike since 1953. And it's loud. And guess what? It doesn't stop at 8:30. It keeps going. So I think the big issue is that sound. What I heard in your letter didn't address any of that. And that's what this board has to determine. Whether we're going to allow you to have that music, which everybody loves, and also take into account what the issues of the neighbors. So I think everything else can be, a great compromise. I don't think the music is going to be a big compromise unless you come up with something. So that's my play on this. That's the only issue I see, and it's the biggest one out there.
They look very happy to answer you, Ray.
Well, I know she's waiting.
I know you want to answer that. I just want to let the board have its opportunity
all right.
to discuss this tonight. Right? Anyone else want to go next?
That's why we're here.
I do want to hear what you have to say. I do have a quick question. So the schedule you have on here, there are several dates listed, but with no talent booked. Does that mean there'll be no music at those dates?
The dates are open because I have been scheduling bands and musicians since December and just reaching out, and those are the dates that we don't have anybody booked, but in case somebody had to cancel one day, they were just left open for.
So there's a couple dates in May specifically where you don't have a liquor license and no music, and I just feel like maybe anybody that isn't booked right now for at least May, they just stay unbooked, and that helps to provide relief because we're in May.
Yeah.
That's just one more day where
May,
maybe music just doesn't happen that day.
Yeah.
You guys don't have anybody booked, and kind of
definitely
go that way. I'm not saying the whole schedule, but kind of just chip away at it a little bit. And
yeah, absolutely,
definitely.
Okay.
I see how this is going to go, but Dwayne, before you go, I want them to know if they want to address Ray's concerns
please.
first.
Yep.
Thank you.
Ray, I appreciate.
Wait a minute, should I hide behind this?
Not at all, not at all. I just wanted to say my letter, granted, the last meeting was about the music and entertainment. However, I believe so many more issues were brought forth before us that I needed a chance to defend ourselves. So that is why I touched on so many other subjects.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Dory?
I do. Thank you for reading the letter and for coming here tonight and trying to come up with a compromise, which is what we're trying to do here. I want to ask a question first about private events too, and just what those look like, how they're booked, if they're part of this schedule or if that's something completely different. If like, let's say you have a wedding, right? I'm assuming that that's not on the schedule. And so, to Colleen's point, if there's like an open weekend where you're not having live music, you could still potentially be having live music with a wedding or something. Is that true? Because I'd rather talk about all this tonight
So-
and work it out. And I just want to get an understanding of the difference between the private events that could potentially have music and then what you're asking for in terms of this license. Because I'm confused on how that.
So as
That
of
works.
right now, we have 2 events that are going to be taking place for like our private events. One of them is a wedding ceremony with expected between 75 to 100 people. That's July 30th. And it's going to be going from 5 until 8. She has not, originally she wanted to have a DJ. And because of what happened last year, I'm trying to stray away from that. But we have to discuss that. And that's one of the days that there's no music on there. And there is another event from 6 to 9, which is a 40th birthday party. But that's one of the days that one of our music people are already scheduled.
Okay.
But other than that, we just have small birthday parties for kids. There's nothing like during the day. So that doesn't take into place.
I'm mostly interested in the music part of it. So how does that work? If it's not on the schedule for a 1-day license, if they're holding private party
A private party would need to apply
for a 1-day beer and wine.
Okay.
Yeah. So just to be clear, so that would be adding on.
So would it be, just an additional one? And for beer and wine, if they wanted to have, say, like a mock bar of what we sold under a tent, is that doable?
A satellite bar?
Like a satellite bar?
A 1-day beer and wine license is for the site. You know, it's not saying you have to have 5 1-day beer and wine licenses for 5 tables.
Yeah.
I don't believe that is the intent.
Okay, there's just so many different things that
Yep.
we're all learning.
It's a good
so.
question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to get an understanding of how often the music plays, how late it goes, if there are private events that aren't on the schedule, and
It
if they
won't
go
be
later.
any different than what we already have.
Okay.
And I let everybody know that when they are scheduling a private event, that we have noise ordinance until 9 o'clock. We're all done. So.
Okay. So I agree with what Ray was communicating to you all. I mean, we obviously, we love Holden Farm. We love the Sunflower Shanty. We support your business. We're thrilled that you have a business. We have a responsibility as a board too, to also listen to the neighbors and come up with a compromise in order for us to give an entertainment license to you all. My opinion, right? And I also feel in your letter, Rachel, that with this comes a responsibility to you all as the business to reach out to your neighbors and say, is everything okay? Is the noise level okay? Is the tractor being too close to your property? Privacy okay?
That's fair.
That, instead of assuming that they're going to reach back out to you, because we don't want to end up back here again, right? We want to resolve this, come up with a compromise. And to me, what I'm hearing is it's about the sound. And so we have to figure out, where do we find that compromise? Is it less dates? Is it earlier hours? I guess,
building a wall.
Building a wall.
That was my first idea.
Turning
we have game plans. set in motion
turning the
for-
property so maybe the sound is going toward Route 30 away from homes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We've got to come up with a plan in order to, again, I'm one person, I'm speaking for myself, but to compromise the
Yeah,
situation.
definitely.
So
Everybody's happy.
Everybody's
That's-
happy.
That's what we want.
That's what we.
Did you
that's
want to
what we
address that real quick? And McColleen's got a question next. Go ahead.
No, thanks.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, into reference of his comment about the wall of the soundproofing, is that sort of what you're?
Yeah.
Like what's on the Mass Pike, almost like a.
Well, it's more. There's a few ways of doing it. One is deflecting the sound.
Deflecting.
And the other one is deflecting and absorbing the sound. Big difference.
All right.
So.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been we've been up there working diligently on a lot of stuff, and trying to come up with ideas.
Arborvitaes.
Well, coming up with ideas to, like you're saying, different direction of sound, or if it was like a backstop, but also it's the whole strapped on time, not many people, less hands, more stuff to do on the plate, so.
Colleen, did you have a question?
Yep. So I keep hearing reference to 9 o'clock, but it's 8:30 that the music ends, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But 9 o'clock is when I say that, like for the events that we do have, that 9 o'clock is when everybody has to be gone.
But the music, that's
Yeah, yeah.
cool. So
But music all done at 8:30.
So this is a very unique situation where you guys do come before us. You'll be back again for another 1-day beer and wine license. Would you, we have the opportunity to not necessarily issue all of the entertainment dates that you've provided us. We can just keep doing it in chunks like this, and that gives everybody an opportunity to say, how's it going? What can we mitigate? What can we change? What do we like? What do we want to keep doing? And going that way. So you've already said in May, those 3 dates that you don't have talent, you'll just keep those off. You said you weren't going to do it on holidays, so one of those days is a holiday you have a beer and wine license for, but you just won't do music that day, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. And then because there's 80 dates you've requested, 20 you're still trying to find talent for, and then 11 have kind of half bookings. So I think that's an opportunity right there to try to work with everybody to, you've been working
that
since
makes
December,
sense.
so maybe those are perfect opportunities to say, we just won't do it that day.
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
Okay.
Lighten your workload.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have any questions?
No, I mean, I guess I got a couple comments. I do think it is solely about the music, so I think the board is, what we heard tonight from people was not about people chucking trash on the road. It was about the noise, and it was about the prospect that, I hear it very deeply from the neighbors that, they're facing a noisy evening on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from now till October, and that is, I wouldn't want to be facing that, regardless of whether I liked the music or not. I'm down the road, I hear it, I love it. I'm always jealous of the people that are there.
But you want to be able to go home and just.
I want to be able to go and hear it in the distance and not have it right across the street from me. So I'm hearing that loud and clear from the neighbors. And I guess where I'm at is I'm just wondering, if we could contemplate something along the lines of 2 week end nights every other or something like that. Just thinking about giving the neighbors a break, and then also just some we've got to talk about the volume. I don't know how to address that one. My concern about volume is enforcement, and I don't want the cops, Grafton police should not be involved in monitoring the shanty, and I don't think anybody wants that. So that's so I guess that's my thought is I'd like for us to contemplate a couple of those things, and I'd love to hear some more thoughts from you guys around what you do about the volume, because the decibel meter is a good idea, but it's I don't know if that fully addresses the issue.
That's a good point. I want to play off that too, because I did have that written down here. It's like, okay, you have a decibel meter, great. You can measure how loud sound is at certain distances. What is your intention, and how do you plan to employ, and then how does this help your neighbors alleviate them from some of the concerns that they have raised with us about the noise levels?
It was a first attempt. I mean, like I also said, there has been other discussion on moving the band and to the direction where it's not maybe bouncing off the greenhouse or our barn, where it may be sending it backwards. Where if we shoot it into open land towards Route 30, I'm not
Yeah.
yeah, shooting it
off the field, back of the field,
or sort of down to like woods where I live on 18 Village Street.
Yep.
Because there's really nothing down there. We have butt tufts.
I think that's a great first start. Do you mind if I pull up a site map of the area, and could you point out to me like what your thoughts are on where you would like to set this up to alleviate this?
Yes.
Be wonderful.
I think before we go ahead with relocating, I would like to try a sound barrier first.
Well, my relocating is essentially saying like transition instead of having it
With-
face.
Like
So-
this way.
Hold
So
on
say,
one second. Instead of, we usually set them up in the left far corner of the wood chipped area back.
That map
I
is
wish I had
so
control of your
different.
mouse, but.
you want to just go over there and
He doesn't even have control of it.
Oh, here. Voila.
I can accommodate.
Look at that.
Oh, are those pumpkins?
All right. So we usually
where's
set
the
up like
playground?
right
It's
around
not
here in this area. We usually have them facing towards the crowd of the, like where the shanty is. Which I'm wondering if it's sort of bouncing off these two buildings.
Yeah.
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 So if we just rotate them so it sort of shoots it straight out this way. Or even if, I mean, as bad as it sounds, we would be willing to go even a little bit more and try and get it away from that, cornered in building, because I'm not sure that helps.
Well,
And
I
what
know
are you saying
Ray,
about the arborvitae's?
Ray brought up a good point, and about if your intention is to move this forward, I think the board wants to see like what measures are you going to put up that will, be acceptable from us to addressing the concerns. And again, sound, loves to reflect off of a flat surface. And you'd be amazed how far sound will carry on certain days of the year. You can hear it miles away.
Leaves are on the tree, no leaves.
That accommodates when there's leaves on the trees, but when the leaves aren't on the trees. Right now, there's not a lot.
Right.
There will be soon, hopefully, and then eventually they fall off, in the fall. So, I think what I want to know, and it kind of goes to like, okay, you were angling it in a different direction for the people away from the residences that are closest to you. You're putting up some sort of walled structure that is going to help direct the sound in that area. Some sound is going to eventually work its way back.
Yeah.
At what level of decibels with the decibel meter? That's what I want to get at. I want to know like what were your plans with that, because that's a good first start. If you've got a decibel meter and let's say you're getting 50 decibels is basically the noise what you hear in a light office. 100 decibels, that's like highway to what Ray was talking about right next to the Mass Pike. 120 is like going to like Foxborough to a rock concert, like a big rock concert.
As long as it's not AC/DC.
That's exactly where 120 decibels comes into play. So those are some of the concerns. Like you have a decibel meter, but I don't want to hear like, hey, right at Western Road, Peter, it's at 100 decibels. If I was your neighbor, I think they would be still concerned about that. So something that is quantitative that you can share with us tonight that you would feel would be adequate to start. I mean, if it gets still too loud and you got that meter, then you're going to have to tell those bands, they got to turn it down. And you got to police that. To Matt's point, we don't have a noise ordinance in Grafton, but we can put these stipulations in place for these special circumstances. And this is how we're going to have to deal with that. But we don't want the police having to come down there and to enforce something that they really don't have the tools to enforce other than getting complaints from citizens, right? So can you share with us again, okay, you put the walls, put the structure up, you're angling in a different direction, because I would like to put these conditions, if they start addressing the neighbors' concerns, I'd like to start putting some of these conditions in your permit.
Fair enough. It would have to go through trial and error, I would think. We get a reading and it says 75. I check with my neighbors and they're like, that's perfect, and okay. Or it's 80 and no, that's not going to work.
So I think that on Thursday when it's nice out, that we
Get some drums.
Yeah, we'll have the kids go out. We just
Well,
got.
we just don't know. Well, I'm
That-
not sure what a band or not a band even, what an acoustic makes on a desk. You know what I mean? I could.
Well, it can make whatever it wants.
With an amplification.
Absolutely, but
What
just-
is reasonable? Like, so you're saying that 50 is like an office.
50 decibels is typically what you hear in a light office environment.
Mm-hmm. So you're thinking that we should be at around like 75?
No, can I just
go ahead? Yep. I know
So here's the thing. We're not going to put a plan together tonight. It's not going to happen. Okay. You can put up a barrier and you can put up a big wood wall and you can cover it in foam or sound panels or whatever it is. You need to have a plan. And I know that this just got sprung on you tonight to put this wall up. Obviously, you've talked about it or something like that. But you need to have a plan. You need to come back to us with, this is what we're going to do. This is what we've tried. This is what we've come up with. We're not sound engineers. I've worked with sound a lot, but in as far as, panels like this and, cutting down noise. But you need to come back to us and tell us what you're going to do. We can't tell you, 75 decibels at 100 feet, because that's, who knows what that is. And, I'd be willing to say that we could issue the entertainment license, for the month of May. And do you really need it on Sundays? Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is a lot for people to hear music. But I'm asking that question then, more than.
In May, they only have one Friday.
No, I'm sorry, Sunday. I said Sunday,
Yep,
didn't I?
Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you took Sundays out of that, in again, I don't want to hurt your business, but you could waste a lot of money doing things that aren't going to work. And I don't want to see you do that. I want the neighbors to be happy with the sound system or whatever it is that you put up. And I want you to be happy that next year at this time, we're not talking about this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That, hey, we did this, it worked, everybody's happy. So we need that plan. And like I said, I'd be willing to, move that we issue you an entertainment license for the month of May, minus Sundays, and you'll have the month of May to come up with a plan.
That's fair.
And because I don't want you to. You can spend $100,000 doing this, and who wants to do that? Just.
We don't.
No, you don't. You don't. But do it and come up with a plan and say, hey, guess what? We had a band here, and they played at this decibel level, and it's 100 feet away, and it was 50, or whatever it was. I really don't want you to waste your time or your money, but I want to make the neighbors happy too.
Can if we were to contemplate not Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but some other combination, like what revenue wise, what are your big nights? What would your preference be if we were to do only one night? I'm guessing it would be Saturday. If we were to do 2 nights, would that be Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday?
Yeah.
It'd be Friday, Saturday?
Correct.
Okay.
So, but based on May, you only have one Friday booked. So if you had to give up one, wouldn't it make sense to give up Friday and keep Saturday,
But
Sunday?
just for May though, it was.
But
just
I think we're only going to issue for May is what it's sounding like.
Yeah,
just
to
because
get
I
money
wasn't.
together.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
We weren't originally planning on opening for Fridays in May because last year we were open after Memorial Day, and I didn't know how busy we were going to be. So that's why I was planning on opening the full 3 days coming June.
Okay.
Got it.
Would you like, you can.
Yeah, what
Yeah, I need that.
He's like going to click. It's not there.
That's your chair.
Yes, Dory.
Yeah, I just, I think so. We can issue you a license in May. It would be a good compromise. I agree with Ray again on this. To maybe give up the Sundays. You can still obviously keep the business open. You have you have a liquor license, right? You can do tractor rides, but you won't have a music license until you come up with a plan that you can come back to the board with. And that's sort of the compromise to the neighbors as a starting point, as while we're figuring this out, we're going to be open on these dates we've agreed to in May minus Sundays, and we'll work on coming back to the board in June.
So
Does that seem agreeable?
Something different.
But I like the.
What I heard from Ray was instead of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, let's ditch a day. So to me, it makes sense to ditch Friday because Friday is just not on their plan.
In May.
Right.
In May.
But what I will say is the neighbors have also expressed to us that really Sunday's a hard day. Like hearing it Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to give the afternoon for them to go out, enjoy their property, enjoy the nice weather without music, I think would be more agreeable. But again, not, and also, you know, you have the music at night too for those times that the Sunflower Shanty is open on Friday and Saturday. But that's just my opinion. I'm just
I
trying
never
to.
heard a Sunday specific request. I just heard a general request. And it sounds like if we're gonna make them ditch a day that they're already not really booking.
Only in music.
In music, of course. They still have we've issued the liquor license.
Right.
That's issued. We can't really. So, but I don't know. And Sundays is a short day too. It's just 1:30 to 4:30. It doesn't go late.
But
It's short.
you're gonna do
less-
better business on a Friday night than you're gonna be doing on a
Yes.
Sunday afternoon.
Yes.
I'm just guessing.
All depending on the day, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
The
Sunday
weather,
day-
you
no,
just
but
never know.
but Sunday's a family day where families are coming out and spending time on the farm, and if they want to enjoy music or do that, I feel like they should be able to because they're coming out for
And
that reason.
the way that I booked the music is for the Sundays, I booked like an acoustic and not bands. Like,
So Sunday could be non-amplified.
yeah.
Would that be?
Because it's, yeah. So it's just like a guitar, low key, just one solo person. Like I have Matt and Marty. They're two older gentlemen. They're quiet. I hired quieter bands because Sundays have always been more of a low key family day and we're not trying to blast rock music and during the day.
So, and also within this time frame, you really need to put something up behind the bands, and I don't care if it's staging with a top or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
We don't
Something.
want it to look like that.
Well, no, I'm just saying,
But-
whatever it is, by the time we get to the, around the 20th of the month, you need to have
smooth sailing.
you need to have a plan, and whatever that is, so that we can work all of this out, and everybody can get off a stupid Facebook, and whatever that is, because I don't see it, but no, Colleen,
At least you didn't say the Facebook.
I didn't say the Facebook.
He thought it though. No, he didn't.
I did.
Put things on the line.
But I think we can work, that can all be worked out. I really do.
All right, so I think the board has expressed its concerns with the citizens that issued some comments about this tonight. You've heard that, and I want to thank you for addressing those. At this point, does the board have enough information in where this direction that they want to go tonight? And if so, does someone want to pose a motion at this point?
I can
Did
make
I-
a motion.
Can you just hang on 1 second? Nope. Just,
Well, that's why I'm asking. Go
oh, I'm
ahead.
sorry. No, I would really like to hear from Mr., and I
We're
can't
not
think of his
having a
name.
hearing.
No, I said, but not hearing. I said, I would really like to hear from one of the neighbors, because we're going through
If
this
I'm gonna
process.
ask one neighbor, Ray, I'm gonna ask them all to come up here.
Seriously.
But
Yeah.
I asked because my aunt Sam is the closest in proximity.
I just want to make sure,
Well,
I just want to make sure that we're not all wasting our time here.
Absolutely not.
That's what I want to make sure.
Would
And,
Mr.
and,
Rich like
and
to
I know,
present them?
we don't want to bring all the neighbors up here, but I just would like to bring one up and say,
Is this reasonable?
is this reasonable?
Yep.
What do you think? You guys are all sitting out there. Is this a reasonable way to do this? Because again, I don't want anybody to waste their time or waste their money doing something that everybody's gonna complain about later. I'd really like to get an idea of,
Can I-
hey, go
I
ahead.
think it's difficult for anybody to answer that right now because they haven't gotten a chance to experience the changes. You kind of have to let them change it and experience it for them to fairly say, no, that worked. Or, nope, that didn't work. They need to do more work.
But
Okay,
we're
I'm
not.
done.
But we're not starting with a solution yet. Where it's status quo until they come back. So we have to make sure there's some sort of compromise between this weekend and when they come back with a solution.
No, I think there is though. We've eliminated days. We've eliminated using amplification on Sundays. We've definitely made compromises.
So I think what Ray is asking is the compromise good enough for the neighbors?
Ray wants to ask some of the community members that are
Yes,
here tonight.
yes.
And
I don't want to ask some of them, I
Because
just
if
want to ask
not-
one of them.
If not, it's gonna be on the Facebook.
Does one person
And he
want to
doesn't
come up?
yeah, but how do you-
Hey, one second. I want to
Mr.
go down
Redwood,
this
whatever
road
his name.
for
What's
one thing.
What's his name?
Mr. Richlick?
Richlick.
Mr. Richlick?
Yes.
Would you be so kind as if you want to come up here and address Mr. Mead's concern or compromise, if you
May I?
please?
Yes.
Yes.
I have a question about that.
I'm going to have you sit down for 1 minute, sir. Please, just do me one favor.
I just want to make sure we're not breaking law.
We're not breaking any law, sir.
Then how do we pick who gets up and talk?
Well, again, it's the chair's discretion, sir, during a meeting. It really is.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Richlick?
Bill Richlick, 88 Weston Street. I think as a group of neighbors, I think everybody here that has expressed concern about the noise, we're looking for a little reprieve. You know, a solo guitar player, right, at a controlled volume without drums and a stand-up bass and, you know, I know Big Chief, there was some confusion about that, but if you do go to their Facebook page, you know, who knew dancing on tables was a thing, right? So, but there's a big bass and there's drums and they go through the house like a freight train, and it's this with pictures on the wall.
Okay, can I just, I'm gonna interrupt.
Okay.
Because all I wanted to know
Okay.
was, I don't want to hear about bands, I don't want to hear about all of that stuff. All I wanted to know was,
What kind of relief?
are we traveling down the right road? That's all I want to know. And it's either yes or no. And I don't want to get into the whole thing of this and the band and this and that. Are we traveling down the right road?
Okay, well, it's all part of it, and it's all hooked together. I mean, it's all wound in. The type of music, the way the music is situated, the frequency of the music. We live there. You know, we love the views in all of that stuff too. So from Mother's Day weekend until October 31st, we don't get a weekend without music? I think no Sundays is a fair request.
Yeah.
For the season.
So do I.
Give us a day to enjoy our house,
All right,
in our yard.
Mr. Richlick, I think that's what we were discussing.
Okay.
I think Mr. Mead's request is that the right road to go down for this, for a compromise to start and see how this is going?
Right.
Yeah, no Sundays is a great start. I think that's great. Acoustic music, perfect. That generally was not as loud. Face it a different way, that would be great. Private functions are an issue. The issues, all of the late night stuff, most of it came private functions. I know there's text message that were cited, but there were some that were left out. There was a comment made. I remember the comment. It was 10:42 at night. I reached out and the reply was, "Oh my God, you can hear that?" And my reply was, "It sounds like Neil Diamond's in my effing bedroom," because there was a sing-along going.
So I wanted to know,
with Sweet
I wanted
Caroline.
to know if we're traveling down the right road.
I know.
Now we're getting into this all.
I know we are.
all
I know
over.
we are.
Mr.
But
So-
yes.
I think we got it. I think
It's a
we got it.
start.
I
Thank
think
you
we
very
got it.
much. Appreciate you coming up. Okay. Any other members of the board have any questions?
I don't.
Yeah, I'm confused about what we're trying to accomplish here. Are we trying to accomplish letting them do something in May temporarily and then have them come back? Or are we trying to solve this, make for the whole season? What are we trying to do right now?
No, my goal is to allow them in May with no Sundays and come back
So
with a
no
plan.
Friday and no Sunday?
No.
Just no
Because they don't have anything booked on Fridays.
Then
that's
they don't
okay.
have anything.
Okay.
But, and then just come back with a plan. That's all. You gotta come back with a plan.
All right, so that's Ray's proposal. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Because Colleen's got another proposal.
I
in front of the
do.
board. Do you have another proposal or do you have questions?
Don't have another proposal. I have
Go
some
for it.
comments though.
All right, let's hear it.
I think since they have already booked acts in May on Sunday, we should let them do that. I want to support this business. I think May is the opportunity for you guys to work this out, to use this as the sample, to do whatever you're going to do and manage it. So if they're having complaints with you guys on Sundays, that's a problem for you, and it's going to become a problem for us when you come back to us. So I would like to see them fulfill the schedule that they have. It's a month. Work it out and have some conversations with your neighbors, because this feels weird to be in a public meeting trying to arbitrate and be in between a community of people that are in a very local area as a board. But here we are. So work it out. And so that would be my proposal, is to try to support the business, but also just be very clear with them that it's up to them to work this out on the Sundays and take whatever music they've booked already as a sort of representative sample of what's going to happen the rest of the season, and just work that out. So.
No, I'm right there with you. And, acoustic only, no drums, no amplification on Sundays. And it sounds like you guys are on board with that, and hopefully the neighbors don't get impacted at all. But this is our test run to find that out,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, completely agree.
What times do the concert on the Commons usually end? Is it 8 o'clock?
I have no idea. Never been to
Doreen could probably tell you.
Yeah, 8. I
8
think it's
o'clock.
8. Yep.
I mean, I think another compromise, that if the board wanted to consider the Sundays, but not, in Saturdays and Sundays, and not the Friday, and include the Fridays, that maybe that time should be earlier, that you end on Saturdays too. 8:30 outdoors. It's later than what we typically run, even the concerts in the Common, which you can see it's more densely populated, and there are full-fledged bands with amplifications up there, right? So I'm curious if you would be amenable to shifting those hours even.
Definitely. And that's another thing that we discussed as well. So, and all of the people that I have booked for musicians have been very
Flexible,
Yeah.
willing to accommodate. They want.
so we can move it. So what time you think? 8, 7:30? If we did 4.
I'm thinking 7:30, because your last call for alcohol is when?
8:30.
8:30. I think it should end at least an hour before then. People can still congregate, hang out, and then you're closed. Everyone's got to leave the premises
By 9.
by 9 on those days. What is it on Sunday?
6.
6.
Yep. I have musicians scheduled from 1:30 to 4:30.
And that last call on Sundays is an hour before
5:30.
you close?
5:30.
5:30?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's a long weekend. We don't want to stay there past 9 anyways.
Yeah,
We want to.
And most people on Sunday want to get home anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
That are out, so.
Got work.
All right. What does the board want to do? Colleen, what do you got?
I think Doreen wants to say something, but I got a motion ready whenever you guys want to go.
Go for it.
I move the board vote to approve the music license for Holden's Sunflower Shanty for the following dates: May 7th, May 8th, May 14th, May 15th, May 21st, May 22nd, May 28th, and May 29th, with restrictions on May 8th, May 15th, May 22nd, May 29th for just acoustic only, and having the times on Saturday be adjusted to end at 7:30.
Second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded on those dates and those times. Any discussion on that motion?
So that, just to be clear, the 27th is not on there. You're gonna have to let them know.
Yep.
Okay, so there'd be no Fridays in May.
Correct.
Okay.
I think that keeping in mind to come up with a plan,
Definitely.
because if you come up with the right plan and everybody's happy with it,
One and done.
Yeah, we'll just do the rest of the season.
yeah, we'll just do the rest
Yeah,
of the
I like
season.
that.
That's what we.
And I want to make another comment too, is that, at any given time, if this does get out of control and we do receive numerous complaints and observations, this board is well within its rights to bring this back here and make any adjustments that it is deemed necessary, okay? So, I appreciate you addressing the concerns. I really do. And I want to appreciate the public for sharing their concerns. I did not hear of any complaints last year. And quite frankly, I was a bit alarmed when I heard about all of the pushback from the neighbors, okay? I thought that was something you guys had somehow all resolved last year, and I was really impressed, like, wow, I didn't realize that. And I want to apologize for the community around that. I assumed that. And that's what happens. Sometimes when you don't hear anything, you think that there's not
No
a
news
problem.
is good news, but not
Right,
always
and that's not the
case.
case, but I think the community coming out here tonight and, expressing their concerns to the board, and you all hearing that, and coming up with, I think, the first of, several compromises to alleviate this is great. And I think that it just shows your commitment to wanting to be a community-run business, seasonal. I know, this is a very unique situation, and again, I want to appreciate you coming out tonight and listening to us and being amenable.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Does anyone else
for-
have any further?
No, just thanks for coming in, and thanks for
Don't
being,
read.
being willing.
She wants.
Yeah, I just want to make a recommendation to you all too, whether it's obvious or not. So if you got to, you got to get back here, not like the last week in May too. First of
No.
all, we don't meet. And
When is the next?
So that's what I'm looking
We're
at
gonna
right
be
now. We're
discussing
gonna
that
be
later.
talking about that later.
Yeah.
About
Yeah.
possibly having a meeting.
Yep.
We'll talk about it,
Yeah. So
You let us know.
Somebody will reach out to you.
you're gonna want to get on the agenda pretty quickly again and come up with a solution. You don't want to wait until the last week in May and say, "Oh, the board's not meeting," and now here we are the first week in June coming before you with a plan, and we say, "No, that's not going to work." You don't want to be in that position. So
Correct. We didn't want to be
Talk
in this
to this guy.
situation. We're trying to
Yeah.
just.
the other comment I have is I just want to make sure I understand the motion, Colleen. So we're giving Sundays, but
Yes.
there's a restriction
Yes.
that it's acoustic.
Yes.
No.
Is
And,
it
and no drums.
Is it unplugged acoustic? I would like to add that.
No
No
amplification. I
None.
said that. Yeah, there's
Okay,
no amplification
okay.
in the motion.
Thank
Yep.
you.
All right,
Okay.
any further discussion on the motion? Did you have, I'm sorry, you had.
I just wanted to, so on the days that we don't have bands,
Mm-hmm.
like no background music, no nothing, or just
A
to
ra-
clarify, like.
We
'cause
can have a
have
radio. That's
like,
not. This
I'm
is.
just asking.
Yeah, that outdoor entertainment that would be like DJ music, is that what you're talking
Well,
about?
no, just
No,
not to have like L sound, you know what
We
I
have a
mean?
Bluetooth
Like
speaker.
little stand-up speaker, like can we,
That's fine.
That's
all right,
reasonable,
all
right?
right. I was
If
just-
it's not
I don't
somebody
think that requires
performing,
a
No,
license.
it's-
Yeah.
It would
fine.
just be.
I was just want to make sure I understood your question.
no, and I
Okay,
just-
all right. I didn't know if you had 20 Sonos speakers like throughout the
Oh,
property.
no,
I'd be like,
absolutely
okay, wait a
not.
minute.
It's
We
just
could.
a little like.
Let's not go there. All right, thank you.
It's late. It's been a
Any
long
further
day.
discussion on the motion on the floor? All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the motion carried. We'll see you back here in a few weeks. Please reach out and keep track of your neighbors' concerns throughout the rest of
And
this.
please
We'd really
reach
like
out to your
see this
neighbors
succeed,
too,
and
to
I'm sure
come
your
here with
neighbors
a
do.
plan
Thank
that everybody agrees on.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
thanks so much.
Put your chair back, Trevor.
Let's just take a few seconds here and just kind of let the room kind of get in some order.
Yeah.
The room empty.
Anytime, can we take a 2-minute recess?
Yes, that'd be great.
This is an invitation here for Economic Development Committee members, is this correct?
Yep.
On section F, so we're taking that out of order tonight. Bill, we also, thank you everyone and welcome back. We just took a few minutes there, let the room empty out. And again, I want to thank everyone for attending tonight and listening in. We're going to be taking another item out of order, section F, under scheduled invitation with Economic Development Committee members, review charge and membership updates. So this was a request to put on our agenda for discussion with the board and EDC, and I want to thank you, Mr. M, for coming out here tonight. Does one of the board members want to? Doreen, did you want?
Yeah, I can. I'm just give me a second. I'm just pulling up the charge. Here we go.
Should we be aware of the membership change when we updated the charge at all, or?
I heard I went back, I reviewed the tapes, and I heard your discussions about changing the membership, and that's perfectly fine. I wasn't aware if a vote was taken or not. All I can say is if you could appoint those members as soon as possible. My challenge is with a board of only 5 people and needing 4 for a quorum. We haven't been able to hold meetings.
So I guess we could reach out to ZBA and Planning Board and ask them to appoint their.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we can do that. If we do that by tonight, then we'll probably get some people in front of us here in the next few weeks. Does that work for you? Okay. Dawn?
So yeah, so I just want to understand too. Hi, John. Good to see you. So are you representing all of EDC tonight, or are there other members joining us on Zoom?
When I was on
or?
Zoom, there were 3 other members on Zoom with me.
So tonight we have Mr. Moisen, who's attending remotely.
Great.
As well as Mr. Swenson and
Laura Ditto.
Awesome. Okay, great.
Do we want to just bring them in as panelists?
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
Already here.
They're here.
Oh,
Okay,
great.
fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, so I actually put this back on the agenda because, you know, we have had a lot of discussion, and we feel during these discussions that as a board that we have a responsibility for the committees and commissions that we appoint to make sure that we're staying on top of the charges, if there's anything that needs to be changed, if there's anything that you all want to see on the charge. It's good for us to kind of run through. Again, we've done this with other boards and commissions as well, just to get input from EDC and from you, John, as being a member on EDC, of how's it going? Does the charge look like something that is up to date to you? Are there things that you'd want to see added or deleted on the charge? So we've had a lot of conversation. I think hours of conversation about what we want to see the EDC doing, but I think it's also important to get the perspective of what are you all working on that's important, and how can we support your efforts as a commission?
Well, Colleen, during one of the sessions, boiled down the mission that she'd like the EDC to do is to attract somebody who would build a 100,000 square foot building. That's.
I don't remember saying that.
Oh, I saw it on tape.
Awesome.
So that's perfectly fine. Given COVID,
I definitely did.
given that COVID is starting to recede, we can pursue the types of businesses that would be doing it. Ideally, that would be up by Grafton Science Park. Historically, we've been focused on life sciences and manufacturing for that area. The question really becomes, and wasn't raised until recently, is should we simply focus on that, or should we open that up to distribution space? And I'd like clarification. And the reason for that is because when we start allocating our marketing dollars, we're going to allocate them totally differently if we want the life sciences and manufacturing versus distribution space. So I'd like the board to tell me what they would like.
So you're looking right at me, and I'll
You're the one who provided the most clarity.
yeah. So
And
so
everybody had a consensus with you.
As far as what type of businesses you attract, I do not want to be prescriptive with that at all. What I was trying to get away from is the Chamber of Commerce feel, which the current EDC has, where it's just a large percentage of supporting local businesses, which is great, and I think that that should continue, but not be kind of the biggest flag you're waving. I want to see maybe finding sites in town and prepping those sites and looking at water rates. And I know these are initiatives that have been brought up in the past, but reworking them again and retrying to, like I said, the water rates. But I don't want to be prescriptive and say I want a warehouse or a life science. I don't think I've ever indicated something like that. It's to just also focus on attracting businesses and making Grafton more attractive, and how do you do that with zoning? And that's why you have a ZBA member on there with, again, I'll say water rates again for a third time, because I do think that's something to be hitting home and trying to change if you possibly can, so that you can attract the life sciences or things like that.
Well, when we talked about the type of building, it's really not come up until recently, because it's always been understood, the way we've talked about in the planning department has been life sciences. We've always focused on Tufts. The TA's office, currently, and the prior TA's office is always really focused on that life sciences. So it wasn't until recently that the suggestion of distribution space came up. And because there's only so much money to allocate, we're kind of forced to figure out how we're going to allocate the dollars unless we want to grow the budget. So it isn't that we're choosing what we want to go after. We're choosing either to enlarge the budget and go after more, or choosing to focus where we're going to spend our dollars. And by doing so, we're choosing life sciences or distribution.
Which is great to hear, because this is the first time hearing that you would need a bigger budget to attract both. When you say distribution, I don't actually know what that means. I don't know what your
Warehouses.
So I've never really been an advocate for warehouses this way or that way. I know we have one potentially coming online, but I don't.
Right, and from my perspective, the warehouse and what I saw at 244 convinced me as a town, the town didn't want the warehouses because of traffic. Well, you're 2 feet from the highway, you're complaining about traffic. If it's in the science park, that's going all the way through town. So that to me, and it's my personal interpretation, was the town was saying that they didn't want the warehousing space. But I'm open, I'll do what you guys want, I just want direction.
I would love to see a plan for you to say, I need an increased budget and here's why, and present that to us. I think we could start there. This is what we have and this is what we plan to do with our budgeting dollars. If you gave us A, we could do this, B, we could do that, and go from there. I think that would be a great, go back to EDC and work something like that out and come back and present to us. That would be phenomenal.
Okay, well, we love budgets. We can make them work any way we want to. Can you give me, it's like, obviously this year it's $15,000, but tell me what the maximum is. I'll come back with something in between and the 15 and then make a recommendation. So if you could give me the other two values you desire, I'll work with that.
I know you're hyper focused on me, but this is a board, so I'm not going to have all the answers for you.
That's a great question. I'm going to speak in a minute.
I'm sorry,
Sorry.
Well, I'm
I got
talking
the
so
big
far
eyes.
focus.
It's easy to make the eye contact.
John, I think that, that's a great and fair question. Like, okay, what this $30,000 gets us, what does that give you? What initiative can you attain, and does that assist you with meeting an end goal of development? And what kind of development? Do you need $60,000? Because the way I look at it is that in order to offset the local tax burden of residents is commercial development. We have some predefined areas, but to me is the budget effective enough in attracting those businesses there? I mean, do we need to send, I'm going to throw this out there, an envoy to an organization that will help develop a parcel of the science park? Okay, and does that, how do we attract? So I think that's a fair question to ask, but it's also the same question we ask other department heads. In my former role in school board is, what is it that you need in order to run and grow and become, good to great? Okay.
Right.
And I know that's a tall order. You will do whatever we want to do, but you as our professional here that we hired is we want to get some input from you to assist me personally for the few weeks I have left. You can measure it in days now, but that I can advocate for you between now and the 17th.
Well, I can share with you my marketing philosophy if you would like.
Can I? Yeah, I just want to put that on pause for 1 minute, and I sort of want to take this discussion in another direction, if that's okay. So, we've had a discussion between the fact that we have an economic development coordinator, who obviously reports into the town administrator. We also have an economic development commission who's appointed by the select board. We have Ray, who's currently the select board representative of EDC, as you know. So there's opportunity there for us to, we want to maximize people's time and efforts in order to help assist economic development in Grafton, right? And so you only have a certain amount of hours in your week, and are working, again, under the town administrator. So we want to make sure that we're utilizing the commission on what can be done to also help. So I'd like to have an understanding of the difference between the charge that we have done for the Economic Development Commission and your role. So to me, it seems, and obviously we want EDC to support your role. And I guess what I'm trying to do is grow that a little bit. And instead of EDC just hearing from you what's going on and maybe supporting it or approving budget items for marketing, for example, I'd like to dig in a little more on perhaps goals that we can have for the commission that's maybe outside of your scope of work working under Evan. I hope that made sense. But so I'm really interested in knowing what projects the commission is working on right now, not the economic development coordinator. And so I'd like to get an understanding of those two, because I think it'll help this board sort of recreate the charge, which will also determine the budget. And is the budget for EDC, is the budget for the economic development coordinator? They're two different things. And we've had the opportunity to hire you, which has been great, but I think it's sort of shifted the role of EDC, which in some ways you've replaced and exceeded, right? And so we want to make sure that we're utilizing the skills and the time, the volunteer time of the people who sit on EDC as well. And I think, that's the discussions we've been having and what we're trying to sort out. So it's really helpful to know the difference between those two. And not just to you, John, like if there's other people of the commission.
The chair's here too.
Yeah. So if you want to weigh in on that, I think that'll be helpful.
You do have one hand from Laura Didio?
There's Laura. Yep. Hi, Laura. If you want to go ahead and speak, go right ahead.
She's a panelist.
No, I think in a lot of ways, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we
Sure can.
Oh, okay. In a lot of ways, we've been trying to figure that out ourselves. And John has done yeoman's work with the initiatives that he's done, going out to meetings and trying to, quite frankly, raise our profile. I mean, so that people know that, hey, Grafton is here. And it's a good place to do business. So there have been some initiatives that John has had, like a jamboree that got canceled for whatever reason. Now, as we're looking at the new charge to bring in larger businesses and maybe clean businesses, green businesses, life sciences, things like that, I don't think anything is off the table. But to do that, we will need, to come up with a plan, not just, for marketing to advertise in magazines or podcasts or things like this, but if we know what type of businesses largely we want to attract for those larger businesses, to bring in, commercial dollars and business, then we can start to really focus our energies. And I think it should be taken from not a narrow scope, but we do need to start in the first brick on the yellow brick road and say, okay, let's have a plan of action. Maybe 1, 2, 3 things that might involve marketing, going out and doing outreach. I mean, we're sitting in the middle of, a lot of tech businesses, bioscience, life sciences. But I think, as you correctly noted, we need to, wisely use the time that we have as a commission.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd want to identify 1, 2, or 3 things. Part of it is going to be for marketing, but the other part is how do we, maybe put some materials together about, I know that we have some videos about Grafton that are up on the site. Do we need to update those? Do we need to update some of the facts and then get those, disseminate them? And who are we targeting? So if we're looking at life sciences, biosciences, there are many events around here that we could, be attending or doing outreach via Zoom calls, by the way, to say to those people, hey, we're here. What are you doing? Maybe we, instead of something, for a marketing or advertising, in just like a Worcester magazine or one of those things, we do it in business magazines. But some of it is, I think, we do our own little research and development, if you will. One of the things that I do, and I've been in high tech for a long time, and I've been a reporter, is I put together, surveys and things like that. So I would like to know, what the people ahead of time, what the people in Grafton would like to see us do as well. But again, I think we have to come up with a plan and have several items on the agenda for what we want to do for the rest of this year and into next year, and then focus on and execute against that plan.
Yeah, go ahead, Ray.
So I've been on EDC now for a year, and I'm just going to read this section 2 here, and it said this commission shall explore, study, and recommend economic development strategies and opportunities for the town by reviewing and researching what other similar towns have successfully implemented to increase economic development, identifying changing economic trends to maximize interest and attract potential businesses, reviewing past meeting minutes to revisit the previous initiatives, and any other recommendation to help increase new economic growth in Grafton. Now, sometimes my aggressive nature comes across the wrong way. That I want business to come into this town. And when John and I have had conversations recently in emails, and John has said that the town's goal or direction, correct me if I'm wrong, John, is that we want life sciences, we want biotech. Holy crap. If you drive around in Sutton, in Millbury, in Worcester, in Shrewsbury, in Auburn, in Westbrook, every single one of those towns are building huge buildings. Huge buildings. We're not building squat. Now, is it the reason that we're waiting for a biotech firm to come into here? I hope not. But I think what this charge does is this gets the committee involved more. And, you know, I agree with Laura. We need a plan, but we need a fast plan. Because biotech blew by us like a freight train. So did life sciences. Blew by us like a freight train. It's gone. Warehousing, distribution, that's the big thing right now. Now, I know that the one on, you know, Worcester Street is, hey, if I had my, you know, my druthers, it wouldn't be there. But if we were building a 380,000 square foot distribution warehouse on Pine Street or Centec Park or, you know, out there at the Tufts property, and we restricted the traffic to only on Pine Street to Route 20, it's a slam dunk. We're not going to get people that are going to come out like they did at 244 Worcester Street, and you know, they did because that is going to affect them and affect their properties. In our industrial park, it's not going to. We need to get the committee together and have regular meetings and brainstorm this stuff and find out what we need to do. And John, if we need more money, I'm sure that we can find more money at some point to do advertising in the proper, you know, in the right areas and the right publications so that we can be in the trend that's going on now. Now, warehousing, everybody goes, oh, warehousing, oh, it's bad, it's this, it's that. No, it creates jobs. It creates excise tax. It creates real estate tax. It creates everything. Everything that we want out there, not in neighborhoods. That's, so, you know, I think we're on the right track here. And I just think that we need to get the committee together on a regular basis and use the talent that we have, because we have very talented people on this committee, and just use it. That's all.
Okay, I have 3 comments. The first comment, as far as looking to see what other towns are doing, I have been looking to see what other towns are doing. And I've also spoken with executive directors of the chambers. What they're telling me is that we're leaps and bounds in front of other towns when it comes to economic development. So there's nobody to follow based on my conversations with them. Your characterization of life sciences directly contradicts Massachusetts Life Science Center as well as Mass Bio. In fact, they see such growth that they're concerned they're not going to have the employees to fulfill all the jobs that are coming. Third is based on the amount of distribution space that's being currently built, there's starting to be rumblings that we may be overgrowing the amount of distribution space. Now, I don't know, I'm not a real estate expert, but that's what I've heard from a couple of people. The desire to attract taxes, I agree with you, and we want to do it. I think what we need to do is really talk about realistic expectations of how long this is going to take. The fact is, you approach somebody, they're not going to build a building tomorrow. There's only recently has the life sciences organization started having meetings. On Thursday, I'll be at the Mass Bio Conference, the State of Possibility. Well, that's the opportunity to really get out there and talk to people, put some brochures in their hands, and interact with them. One of the challenges that you have is if you're trying to build a 100,000 square foot building, is that cold calling does not work. They need to find you, you need to position it so they find you. And that's what the conferences are going to allow this to happen.
One second. Carl had his hand up real quick. Yes, he did. Carl, do you want to go ahead?
Good evening.
Hi, Carl.
And thanks for your patience. Couple things that come to mind, and I've been on the Economic Development Commission for, I want to say 4 years now. To do some revisionist history, I guess, for lack of a better way to go about it. 4 years ago, we were in the midst of attracting or trying to attract and sat in several meetings to get the zoning the zoning changed so that UPS would be interested in as a buyer in a property over on Centec Boulevard, I guess, right? And then proceed to see if we can get them a TIF and get them all geared up and get them ready to go. That would have been the for lack of a better term, the lottery winnings for us on a tax revenue basis. So they've controlled that property for the better part of, I think it's 4 years or maybe even 5 years, right? We haven't seen, other than, there's no development, there's no building going in, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if it was the neighboring town that kind of put a damper on that. I knew they were in negotiations with the town of Shrewsbury. I knew there were sewer issues. I knew there were traffic issues on Route 20 that they were concerned about. But for whatever reason, UPS backed out. So then we go into a scenario where we're hit with COVID. And I think to credit John's initiatives, and Colleen, your comment was right on. We were more of a chamber of commerce trying to keep the small businesses alive during COVID. And representing, the real estate community, the restaurant community, et cetera, et cetera. We were all just trying to survive, for lack of a better term. And we became a little bit more focused on the small businesses in town and keeping them vibrant, or even somewhat at a level in which they can stay in business. We're still we're coming out of COVID, and to Ray's point, I think, we need to pick up the pace. I think we need to obviously develop a more coherent and accurate plan. I think we've been shooting from the hip for about throughout COVID, for lack of a better reason. But I think, you're right. I think the charge needs to be that we need to get more focused on attracting businesses that would bring an increased tax base. I would feel that the committee or the commission, would be stepping up and actually, having a better, clearer direction on what we're trying to do. I think it behoove us all. So I think we're on the right track here, and I appreciate all the feedback and the thought process that went into this. We need to kickstart this. We need an Economic Development Commission, 2.0, for lack of a better term. So I'm liking what I'm hearing here.
Okay, Colleen.
Yeah, so just to mirror everything Carl just said, and that was the intent behind this, was to provide some direction, to kind of check back in with EDC and see where everybody was going and what we wanted to do. And I do think there really is a distinction between the Economic Development Coordinator and the committee. And I do think sometimes they overlap, but they really are separate things. And I don't want it to be viewed at all that we think anybody's not fulfilling what we're asking them. That they are, and exceedingly so, as John just said. But what we're doing now is we're asking something different of the committee, because of course you fall under the town administrator. We wouldn't ask something different of you, so that hopefully if you can focus more time on all the things that you would like to, focus on, and it sends the committee off on something to hopefully support all of those things that you want to be focusing on. So maybe they can be looking at trends that you were just mentioning, come up with forecasting for things that, these are big picture, long-term things. And part of the charge is creating an annual report. And maybe you guys can just try to whip one together, what you've done for COVID and how you did all of the great things you did. Because it's the other thing is we want to celebrate all of the efforts you guys do instead of just try to figure out, well, Shop Grafton. But I know there's more. You know what I mean? And the annual report will help do that.
Okay, well, let me tell you point blank, to build 100,000 square foot lab space, you need 50% of it pre-leased. That's 50,000 square feet. There's currently businesses that are committed to leasing 20,000 square feet. So if there's anybody that you know that will lease a portion of the 30,000 square feet of life science space, that could allow us to have what they would call a spec building because it's 50% leased. You guys have this network, and your network is far vaster than my network. That would be a great place where you guys could help.
That's good to know. All right.
Okay.
Eric, I know you've joined her on here. Do you want to weigh in on anything?
Yeah, can you all hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Hi, Eric.
Hi, sorry, I'm not at my computer, otherwise I would have raised my hand. Yeah, just a couple things. I agree with the overall sentiment that I think the committee needs to be revamped to some degree. Number one, I think it would be good if the key phrase in the new charge is economic development, but it is not actually defined in the charge, and I think it's a very nebulous phrase that people can assign their own interpretation to. So I think it would be good for the select board to more clearly spell out what that means, because to me, when I'm on the commission, and I think of economic development, I'm thinking of increasing the commercial tax base. That's my number one thing, but other people could have different interpretations of what economic development means, or even how they prioritize different parts of economic development. So hearing from the select board what their priorities are in terms of economic development, I think would give us a much more clear vision that a lot of the members who've spoken are asking for. So that's one. And then secondly, I don't know how to phrase this, but I think that the commission has, at least during my time on here, is dependent on John, and he's available to us and we use him, but oftentimes it's John recommending that we meet, and I think if the commission is actually going to exist and be a separate entity that produces value for the town, I think we have to decouple a little bit from John, and invite him into the meetings on a regularly scheduled basis, but not have him being the initiator, because I think it was Colleen or somebody else pointed out, like, that's kind of part of John's job right now, and those honestly aren't well spent hours. He could be doing other stuff besides helping us. And like I said, I think just because he's been available, we've grown dependent on him, and that is 100% on the committee. That is not on John. But I think having those two things separated would be good in helping the commission find its way along with the new revamped charge. Thank you.
Thank you. That was really good insight.
Any other comments, questions?
So just to speak that we when we were updating the new charge, we did speak at length at what we thought, what does economic development mean? We really did drill down on that. And then part of the new charge, it specifically calls out attract potential new business. And I think that's where we are currently. But again, this is a living charge that could be updated in a couple of years, where maybe we said, okay, we've now really focused on what we want, and that's okay too. But for right now, it's what the new charge says, and it's, we are at fault too a little bit. We approved this February 1st, and we have yet to appoint a planning board or a ZBA member, and that onus is on us. We really needed to have reached out to them, if we haven't already, and get their committee up and running with the membership that we've established. So
I do have concern about your appointment of a planning board member.
Oh, okay.
Those meetings are brutally long, and they meet every other week. I don't know if you'll be successful in getting somebody to join another board.
Well, Dave
You gotta
Robbins has
chair
another-
the planning
Dave Robbins
board
has
right
another 10
behind
minutes
you.
left in his day.
But please, say yes, say yes.
Hey, guys.
If I may, a couple of points. I'll stand, 'cause I've been sitting too long here.
Go ahead.
So, Dave Robbins, Chair of the Planning Board, as if you didn't know. To John's specific concern, I happen to know that one of my planning board members is very interested in economic development, and I think would jump at the chance to participate in the Economic Development Commission. So personally, at the moment at least, I have no concerns about that.
Okay.
And our meetings don't always run till midnight. In fact, more often than not, our meetings are done before 10 o'clock. And I'm looking at my watch.
Well, if you stop talking, Dave, we can
Yeah,
get moving.
you're making things worse here.
Yeah, but I want to put in a plug for one other thing that connects to the EDC, and that's the master plan update that we're working on. And part of what the master plan does, should do, and will do, if I have anything to say about it, is to look specifically at commercial development opportunities. And I think as we get into the master plan work, we're gonna count on the Economic Development Commission and as well as the related staff. We're gonna count on you guys to provide the essential input on the economic development angles of the master plan. And one of those angles that I'm very interested in is looking at where in town are there opportunities for commercial development, not just the areas that we've already identified. I mean, we've been talking about one particular corner of town, which has for more than 20 years, the 20-year-old master plan identified that as a prime area for commercial development, and that goes back a lot farther. It goes back to the mid-'80s when that area was really first envisioned as a major commercial area. But I think we also want to look at other areas around town, identify opportunities for smaller commercial space, and that may include, revisiting some zoning. There may be some areas that could be zoned more to be more effective as commercial. Because there's, I think we're going to be looking at overall zoning and where the undeveloped land currently is, and regardless of how it's currently zoned, what would fit well there. So we'll be looking for that as well. But I want to put a plug to make sure that we're not working at duplicating effort or working at cross purposes, because the master plan has to include all of this.
Yeah.
And it's a slightly long term. That's going to take 2 or 3 years before we get that done. But we're going to count on your help, EDC, as part of that. And just as a small aside, zoning is primarily the purview of the planning board, not the zoning board. We're the ones who are basically in charge of the zoning bylaw. So, because it's a couple of you maybe weren't clear on that, because the zoning board has zoning in its name and we don't.
Hey, Dave, Sue just called me. She said, go home.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dave.
That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, great.
All right.
Noted.
We're getting up here to 10 o'clock. Do you have any further comments or anything else that you want to weigh in on tonight, John? Was this?
No, I'm happy to come back again and have a discussion. My only request is to be early on the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd rather meet you at 5 o'clock in the morning than 9 o'clock at night.
We're not here at 5 a.m.
That's an option, maybe, though. I don't hate
No,
that.
but
I love meetings.
next time
Yeah,
on at 7
this was a pretty lengthy meeting.
Yes.
We apologize, when you get a lot of the community involved and some contentious,
Yeah.
it gets lengthy.
And thank you for being here.
Thank you for your
It's
patience,
really
John.
appreciated.
So I guess the point is to be continued.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion,
And let's do these appointments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
got it
can
already
check
set.
back in maybe in the fall, give you guys some time to come up with a plan and get used to your new members and look at the charge. And because I don't think you guys have, as a committee, even had an opportunity to talk about the charge yet.
We haven't had a quorum yet.
Yeah.
and we have to have those appointments so they can meet as a committee and, like Ray said, meet more often, and I think come back to you guys in a couple months.
I already sent the email off to Cindy and
Killing it. Killing it.
Carl, did you have your hand up real quick?
No, I just wanted to thank you guys for your time as well, and in the direction, I guess, for lack of a better term. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Carl,
you.
for coming out tonight. Thanks for waiting. We appreciate it. John, thank you. Drive safe.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
We'll
Bye,
follow you.
John.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. I know I've got two people here tonight, and I'm going to take this out of order so I can get some of the public out of here tonight. But this is for Select Board appointment for Information Technology Committee. We have two applicants for one seat. Tonight, we have Christopher Lacassi, and the other person is Amar Clark. I'm going to ask Christopher, do you want to come on up and say a few words? And thank you very much for your patience tonight. I take it you work in IT, so you're used to late nights. All right.
Yeah, I vastly underestimated how long this would go, but it's been interesting to watch.
Well, we could have told you.
Yeah, we had an over-under tonight, and all of us lost. Go ahead. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. So I'm Chris Lacasse. I live at 19 Maplewood Drive in North Grafton. I am a software development manager, is my current role. I've been a software engineer for approximately 15, maybe 17 years. Hard to keep track at this point. I've lived in Grafton since 2009. Very recently have gotten interested in how the town operates, how things happen. I live across from the Wyman Gordon property, so started attending some of the planning board meetings and select board meetings via Zoom, just listening in. And one of the things that I sort of took away from that was there's a lot of people that are volunteering a lot of their time and bearing a heavy burden to represent the town, and I figured, hey, let me see what's available, and how can I provide my expertise to help the town. So here I am. I guess I'm not really sure exactly what the IT committee does. I can tell you a little bit about my expertise and how that may be useful, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. So I guess at a high level, what my role has been for a long time, for most of my career, I developed software, so I was writing code. In the past, maybe 7 years or so, I've been an engineering leader, so a manager of teams. And the responsibilities that I've had have been ranging from managing a software team directly to managing larger organizations, and then being responsible for software development, for operation of software services that are in production, most recently managing a very large-scale infrastructure for Dropbox, which is my current employer. So in that role that I have now, some of the problems that I'm responsible for are capacity scaling, disaster readiness planning, things like that, business continuity planning, working with vendors, with contractors to essentially do due diligence on the technical capabilities of those contractors or those vendors as they're offering services that we may subcontract through. So some of those things, may be useful to the IT committee as managing this really sort of large scale infrastructure has presented a lot of technical problems, and so maybe that's experience would be useful.
Great. Anyone have any questions for Chris?
Thank you. Thank you. Very helpful.
Christopher, thank you very much for coming out tonight. Thanks for telling us about yourself and what you do. All right. At this point, I would ask if Amar would come up, just do the same thing. Thank you very much, Christopher.
Thanks, Chris.
Good evening, Amar. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Thanks for your patience.
This is past my bedtime.
Us too.
So my name is Amar Clark. I live at 106 North Street in Grafton. I have been looking for a way that I can dedicate some time to serve the town recently, and given that I have 3 small children at home, I don't have a whole lot of time to give, but I figured that this IT committee would be something that's kind of inside of my wheelhouse, and also would allow me to contribute and get a little bit more familiar with how the town operates and things like that. So my background, I've been doing different IT roles pretty much throughout my entire adult life. I did a degree from WPI in computer science, but I decided that I didn't want to go into coding. So I ended up more on the IT side of things. I originally started in working for what's now Mopfre Insurance. It was Commerce Insurance, and I worked my way up through basically the ranks of IT. Did almost every job that they have inside of the IT department. And then more recently, I work for Dell as a solutions engineer, and focusing on new product development and things like that. A lot of really boring things that I don't really want to talk about right now. But if anybody has any specific questions, I would be happy to do a deep dive into any of those things. I am very results oriented, so I like to look at a problem from the desired outcome, right? So we start with the outcome, and then we figure out how we can get to the outcome from where we are. Just, you know, basically, up until recently, I didn't know much about what the IT committee did. I've read through all of the meeting minutes for the past year. Most of the things that have been discussed seem like they're things that I could pretty easily at least provide some guidance and input into. Looks like we're deploying a new financial system for the town, cloud-based. You know, those are things that are pretty much, you know, that I discuss, the whole multi-cloud, all these buzzwords, deal with at work all the time. Right now I'm focusing on kind of like a technical lead role in my position, so like mentoring new people that are coming into the team and things like that, working with folks that are offshore and onshore as well. And also, you know, one of the things that Dell has really been focused on recently, my employer, is kind of our customers and even our internal company is focusing on this kind of IT transformation as, you know, as the pandemic hit and we've had to start working from home, and how can we best kind of adapt quickly to the environment that we're presenting. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thanks, Mar. Anyone have any questions for Mar? All right. Well, Mar, thank you very much for coming out tonight and give us a rundown of what you do and your interest in joining the IT committee. All right. I think at this point, board has heard from the two applicants. Does anyone have any questions or comments they want to make before we take any action?
I guess there's only one seat available, right?
There is.
And do we know if there's any IT seats up for reappointment in the annual appointment process for the person who doesn't get appointment tonight to maybe throw their hat back in a ring? So sorry. You know what? I'll look that up and I will let whoever know later.
All right.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember who's up for reappointment.
Okay.
Two. It looks like two on June 30th, 2022.
Okay, so there's a possibility of another opportunity at this for whoever doesn't quite make it on tonight. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
You're one of the feet that's up, Dave.
Ooh, sorry.
Awkward.
Can we swap you over to EDC?
Yeah.
I could try it.
We kind of feel like we're.
No, I'm asking
we kind of
Dave.
feel like general manager traders. It's like player, we're going to do you a cash offer and a player to be named later. Okay.
This is how we end up here at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board?
No, I like what I hear from both candidates.
Yeah,
I'm bummed that we have to pick one. I thought, you know, with Amar, I liked the fact that he actually read through all the meeting minutes, which was great. And, you know, I think it's great, you know, that you're looking at what's in there and think that you're, you know, capable of contributing, which is great. With the other candidate, I thought, you know, with his work with the vendors, contractors and contracts and whatnot, I think that would be also, you know, most of the work obviously is done by contractors in town. So that's also really useful experience.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I don't know. To me, it's a toss up.
Anyone other questions or comments?
I agree.
I'll just weigh in. I actually work with both software development managers, and I actually work very closely with a lot of Dell folks in my job as well. I believe you both provide you know, very good insight into industry today and how it helps Grafton. And I also appreciate both of you wanting to come out and volunteer. And again, unfortunately, we have to pick one tonight. And you know, I can just kind of see where, Christopher, maybe you would fit in on developing plans for the future for Grafton and looking at different options for different technologies. But I also see where your role is today in working more directly with, the IT infrastructure. And you talk about that digital transformation. Like you and I think both lived the same life over the past 3.5, 4 years. We could probably trade a lot of stories about that at a later date. But I kind of feel that, maybe where Grafton is today, I think, Amar, in just my estimation to the board, provides, a pretty good skill set. And I would be in support of that.
I agree. I'm going to just make the motion. I move the board vote to appoint Mark Clark as a member of the Information Technology Committee for a 3-year term to expire June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Christopher, I hope you come out when we do our reappointments, because very often there'll be spots open, and I think he'd be great.
Yeah, likewise.
And we won't have it on a night that's 1,000 people are in the room either.
Right.
Well, we will, because we have to make sure everybody's in the room, so that's a lie.
Will there be live music?
Talk to this guy.
I think actually Amar's career path is actually better aligned for the IT committee.
Thanks.
My role's a little more strategic, so if in the future there's a need for a more strategic kind of board function, I'll kind of.
But I do believe there's a need for that.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I have a
Yeah,
motion made-
definitely don't discount yourself.
Yeah.
All right.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Declare the motion carried unanimous. Thank you very much, Christopher,
Thank
for
you.
coming in. Mar, thank you very much for your patience tonight.
Thanks, all.
Yes, thank you for your patience.
Okay, I know we've got one other member here, 2 members here that are waiting to discuss some one-day beer and wine license. So we're going back
Okay.
to scheduled under item B. One-day beer and wine license applications for veterans of foreign wars post 1497. The purpose of this event is a high school scholarship fundraiser. Just some context into this. This is something that the VFW has been doing for many, many years. Is there any questions on the action the board taking tonight?
Nope.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move the board vote to approve the one-day beer and wine license for the Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 1497, 25 Main Street, South Grafton, Mass. for a fundraiser event on May 29, 2022.
Second.
Motion made second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Declare the motion carried unanimous. All right, next up, we have a one-day license request from Cummings School of Veterinary Medicine for student and faculty events. There's also a one-day music license and a one-day beer and wine license attached. And tonight, we have Jessica Scott. Jessica, I want to thank you very much for your patience. It is, I know, is 7 here. But
7 past 10.
7 past 10.
Yeah.
10 past 7, that's
Either
how late-
way.
That's how late it is. Yeah, when we've been up since 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
So, do you want to give us some background real quick before we take action tonight?
Yeah, they're the typical license requests. The ones for music only go until 5 p.m. They're on Saturdays. One is on Sunday. For commencement, it's a 4-piece string quartet to play during commencement, and the other one is jazz band to play during the Spring Fest, which we already have a liquor license for.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the board on the the one-day music licenses and the one-day beer and wine licenses?
Nope.
All right. I'll take a motion to approve the alcohol license first.
I move the board vote to approve the one-day beer and wine license for the Cummings School of Veterinary Medicine for an event to be held on May 15th.
Second.
Motion made second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Declare the motion carried unanimous. Can I take a motion on the one-day music licenses?
I move the board vote to approve a one-day music license for May 14th and May 15th for the Cummings School of Veterinary Medicine campus events.
Second.
Motion made second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Thank you very much for waiting and coming out tonight, Jessica. Good luck.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
too.
All right, next up, we have a one-day license request from Elizabeth Galloway. Hey, good evening, Elizabeth. How are you?
I'm tired, as you all are.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Okay, I want to give us some background on your request, please.
I'm getting married, and we're renting the library for the reception. I'm hoping there won't be construction on the common in the next 12 days, but if there is, the ceremony will be outside at the library with a 4-piece Renaissance band to play some music during the ceremony, and then we will go inside where we'll have a klezmer band, and we're doing a reception with a champagne toast, beer and wine available for those of age, and possibly some sipping of whiskey or schnapps, mostly ceremonial for an event that starts actually a little bit before noon, before the ceremony itself. I'm tip certified and will be purchasing the alcohol from a wholesaler, but then I'm going to be busy being the bride, so I cannot serve. So I've hired through a company called Clockswork, somebody else who's tip certified to do the pouring and ID checking and make sure that, you know, my uncle doesn't get overserved.
All right.
Don't worry, he lives far away. He won't see this.
Anyone have
We
any
know
que-
everybody who's coming. You know, it'll be it's a safe family and friends event.
Perfect.
Expecting around 140 people probably.
Nice.
Thanks,
I did not ask the neighbors if it was okay if we played music outside, but it will be between the regulated hours and not very loud. And the inside band will be quiet enough for us to have conversation in between the horror dancing.
Okay.
Perfect.
We get a question from Colleen here, Beth. Go ahead, Colleen.
So, Beth, I do have a quick question. This seems to be one of the first bigger events happening at the library, and I know people are starting to be interested in using that space. And I thought I saw you comment recently that when the library is not open, it's not available. So I'm just curious how this is happening on a Sunday when the library is not open.
Sure. It is available for rent, pending Board of Trustee approval. I do have a inside as a staff member.
Of course.
The issue right now is that we don't have the gate yet for the bottom of the stairs to lock away access to the upstairs collections. And we've been open almost 9 months now, and it's still not done. And as soon as I have that gate in place, then we can put in security cards. We already have the security card system. We can issue a security card, lock all the first floor doors, lock the elevator, and lock off the gate so that we can have after hours use. So any outside of the operating hours use thus far has been dependent on a staff member coming in at overtime to open the space. And I have done it for, adjusted my schedule to do it kind of on a volunteer basis. We just had the North Grafton Parent Teacher Group come in. Actually, I worked a 15-hour day so that they could have their event. And I just can't do that every week. And I don't have the budget to pay staff to have after hours events this year and possibly next year. So they have to be unstaffed. And until I get that gate, I really cannot make it available on a regular basis.
Any other questions?
My board agreed to make an exception for my wedding.
Any other questions or comments for Beth? Nope. All right. We can entertain a motion.
I move the board vote to approve a one-day all alcohol license and one-day music license for Beth Galloway for an event being held on May 15, 2022 at 35 Grafton Common, Grafton, Mass.
Second.
Motion made second. Any discussion on the motion?
Just want to say congratulations, Beth. Really exciting and beautiful, beautiful venue. So I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations to Beth. Good luck on your special day there. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carried. Thanks, Beth. Thanks for waiting around so late tonight. We appreciate it.
No problem. I hope you guys are done soon. Take care.
Me too.
And thank you.
Okay.
Night.
We're moving along here. We're back to number 4, election worker. We have Joanne Basella, but she is not here tonight. Would the board want to go ahead and appoint? We have a letter from, I believe we have notification from the clerk. We don't have anything, do we?
Yeah, do we have any correspondence from her saying that, she was out of town or she just can never make it, or, I think we're trying to.
Nope, we don't.
Okay, so maybe we can just pass over this tonight, reach out to her, and then put it back on in future.
Does the rest of the board want to pass over tonight?
Yes.
No, okay.
Well,
Pass
don't we
over.
need election workers on May 17th?
Oh, we're meeting next week.
Oh, that's right.
All right,
Forget all
next
about
up, new business. We don't have any appointments for town administrator. Number 5, new business. Amend one-day one-day liquor license for Cummings School of Veterinary Medicine. Anybody have any questions? All right, hearing none, I can entertain a motion.
I move the board vote to approve changing the date of the June 30th, one-day liquor license for the Cummings School of Veterinary Medicine to June 29th, 2022.
Second.
Motion made second.
Easy for you to say, man.
I'm dying.
Motion made second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Declare the motion carried. Okay. Do we have any select board member reports? Silence. Any town administrator reports?
Yeah, I'll be brief.
Fancy.
There it is, May 3rd. Okay. So, budget update, we're still finalizing our interfund transfers. That'll be part of your joint meeting, this week on the 5th.
Okay.
You'll do a vote with the finance committee to approve those interfund transfers so that we do not have to do that as part of our, town meeting. That's a process that's being pushed by the DOR. Town meeting, we finalized the warrant with explanation and recs. The motions are pretty much complete with one that we've been going back and forth with council on. We've been working on getting the clickers ready. We have to set up a time to do a dry run, but Will and I have been changing batteries at night. We're about 300 down, 300 to go.
Could have brought some in tonight. We could all just been working on.
I got a system though.
We had a lot of people here tonight.
Yeah.
We could have just
knocked
handed
it
them
out.
I'm real particular though. I got to test each one myself.
All right.
It's a whole thing. And then
It's not particular.
yeah, we filmed the town meeting warrant overview at GCTV. Will and I did that together.
Yeah, that was great.
Thanks, that was good.
Yeah, it came out. It's getting better. We have ideas for next year. Like me letting Will introduce himself and things like that.
Yeah, that would,
I just
yeah. Who's the guy in the other chair?
I just kept going. We're rolling.
Nobody of import.
So Grafton Fire, not a heck of a lot to give you updates on. They've been very busy over the last weekend doing a lot of mutual aid and brush calls. So thank them for that. Search committee update. So our assessment center is complete. And you'll have the candidates in front of you tomorrow starting at 6 p.m.
Yahoo!
Yeah, almost there. Various other updates. So the Eagle Scout Trail behind the library, we're going to start looking at that for becoming an accessible trail. So we've got some study work to do on that. I know the Disability Commission's been asking about that at their meetings, but I haven't had any direct contact with them. I met with the Grafton Water District, and we're working on some potential ARPA requests to funnel back up to the ARPA committee. Drinking water and wastewater are both items called out in the ARPA legislation directly. And I think we've got a couple of potential good projects for the town that use multiple different funding sources to reach a goal, which I think will be pretty neat. And then while we're on the ARPA topic, we have our outreach meeting May 11th at the Grafton Public Library. We should have got a beer and wine license for that. And then we do have our survey that's live on the website. So you can go on there and answer a few questions. It should only take you a couple of minutes, but it's really vital to us collecting that feedback so that we can find good uses for that money.
And if I could just piggyback on that, we do have physical copies of the survey at the library and the senior center for anybody who might not be able to access it to a computer.
Perfect.
Great. Great. Thank you. I think that's it.
Yep.
Questions?
Just a quick one. The Eagle Scout Trail. What do you mean by accessibility review? Is it going to be?
I can do that.
Yeah.
So I received an email request from Mr. Trahan, the chair, who was authorized to want to be on the select board agenda, but I didn't know what or if or any action that we needed to take. So I recommended that the chair reach out and speak with Evan directly on this, and that any action that the board needed to take then would be brought to us by
Great.
Evan.
Okay.
So that's
So
sort of-
so it's an internal assessment. That's really what I was getting
Yes.
at. Is it a feasibility
No,
study?
we
that's
haven't
going?
gotten that far yet. We're gonna
Okay.
we're gonna take a look and see what our next step really should be, which is I think, well, it's not what I think. That's what the plan was originally, was that, Cassie would be able to do her project. We would then, undertake the project or the process of figuring out the feasibility of making it accessible.
Sure. Okay.
And you know, it's been winter time, so.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Not going out there.
Okay.
Don't go out during tick season either.
All right, next up here, if there's any further questions, correspondence, does anyone have any questions on correspondence we received?
I do.
Go ahead, Colleen.
So we got a letter from CPC, and to that, I would like to make a motion that the select board join the finance committee in support of Article 37.
Is that a motion?
Yep.
Second.
So the reason I am doing this is because the select board really was a big part of this process in the early parts of these conversations and spearheading this, and then we ultimately decided not to sponsor the article ourselves because we were trying to be supportive of all the people in it. But now that it is there, I don't think our support waned any. It was just we were trying to avoid. We were just trying to avoid what is inevitably happening anyway, and I think people are going to look to us and want to know where we stand.
Any discussion on that?
I guess I'm just wondering what that, I mean, when we don't have recommendations that go to, like as a part of the warrant, and it, so it's just a vote.
And just a vote saying that we support it.
Fine with that, sir.
Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the recommendation in favor of Article 37 at town meeting?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
I declare the motion carried 4-1. Any other questions on correspondence tonight? Okay, moving right along. So, we had some discussion items on the agenda here tonight. First one up was Nelson Library. So, Ray, did you wanna,
Yeah,
ask the board on?
this can be really quick because there was never a discussion of handing over the library to recreation. It was a discussion that I had with Roger Currier about the library and the availability of possibly doing something with with a town department or utilizing the building. We just came up with recreation would be a great spot for recreation because you got the building, you get that whole building down there, which is a good sized building, and then you get the fields and everything like that. But, you know, without having recreation here and the trustees here, it's really just not even a discussion. So, but it was not to discuss handing over the building. That's makes people lose their mind. And that wasn't
I
the
was
case.
wondering how that was going to work.
It wasn't the case. It was more of a, hey, this sounds like a good idea to utilize this building because right now it's not being utilized. So that's all. And I'll put it on an agenda some other time. So it's no big deal.
So, do you think that should go to the rec department instead?
Recreation, well, what I wanted to have
Yeah.
was the library trustees and recreation here.
Got it. Okay.
So that we could just have a little discussion to see if it's even feasible. You know, but it's a building that's there, it's not being used, it needs to be used.
Is that something that those two organizations can work out themselves and then come back to us, Ray?
Ideally.
Well, they can, yeah. Yeah.
Do they, that's what I was wondering if they had to be here.
No, they don't have, I was just trying to get an idea of, and it doesn't have to be recreation that goes in there, it could be something else, but I'm not sure what.
Yeah.
Recreation seems to be the best.
Will and I will
choice.
move down there.
Will you?
Oh, yeah.
Good, excellent.
Be awesome. What are we doing?
We're moving in the library down at Nelson Park.
Oh, excellent. We'll get so much work done.
I know.
Yeah.
Handled.
Okay, done.
Okay, all right. So to be continued?
Yeah.
Okay. Discussion tonight, update on the DEI audit. That's diversity, equity, and inclusion.
So that was one that I asked to be put on. I'll be brief. We had discussed the putting together a committee for DE&I. I brought up the idea that I would like some sort of foundational guidance for that committee by doing an audit, to just give them some specific direction to pursue. And so I just followed up with Evan on this a week or two ago. I had become aware that the school is doing an audit, and asked if the town could just partner with the schools so that, you know, because we ended up in this situation with the disability
Right.
study where we just did it on the town side, and then we had this big gap where we didn't really know where we were as far as the schools go. So I thought if the schools were going to do this, let's just partner with the town and let's do a townwide thing if that's going to be possible. So I think Evan can kind of, you know, speak to where we're at on that, but I believe that there's an RFP going out, and so we're just going to see how much it would cost and essentially whether it's going to be feasible or not, or whether we just go a different direction. You know, so
Yep.
I'll let
Yeah, Jay and I did meet briefly last week. We're gonna put together a joint RFP sometime after town meeting. So probably I would think June, July-ish. And then we'll see what we come back with pricing, but we're both dedicated to do it together. So I think that'll be a good cost savings and also make sure that we're doing things equitably on both sides of the house.
Yeah, I love it. And I'd recommend that we just put the committee charge on an upcoming meeting and just move on with it.
Okay.
I don't see any reason why we should not just do that, because it could be several months before we have, you know, an audit agreed to and done and all that. So.
Yeah, but we haven't haven't identified any funding source or anything else like that. So.
So I think we should just
Yeah,
move forward with
I agree.
with establishing that committee if that's what the board wants to do.
True.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sounds good to me. All right. Anything else on that? Nope.
Nope.
All right, next up, just discussion real quick on updating meeting schedule. More importantly, you know, looking at the next quarterly schedule here, we are slated to meet on May 17th. That's election day. That poses a unique challenge because two of us will no longer be select board members at 8 p.m. that night.
So you'd have to leave.
Exactly.
We would still have a quorum.
You would still technically have a quorum. You know, my thought, and again, this
Could
is
just
up
run
to
a
the-
quick meeting.
Or we could start at 6 p.m. if we
They-
needed to.
They don't all have to go till
I know.
11.
But if Holden Farms needs to come back, we
Well, I
we
think
need to
I
make
think
ourselves
Holden, if
available.
Holden Farms is gonna come back, we need to meet on the 24th.
I agree with that, and I also think the election day is the 17th. Going 2 weeks before we meet again with new members is a long time. So meeting the week after an election is a nice way to onboard people and have a lighter agenda. And
reorg and all that on that day.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I phased out. What did you say?
We'll tell you when to show up.
it's not a Wednesday, don't worry.
Just let me know. As long as it's not a Wednesday.
So yeah, but I agree. I would
coordinate
potentially
with
say
Yeah.
move the meeting on the 17th to the 24th.
Yeah.
Just have a full meeting. That
Yeah.
night.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then you're back on your regular schedule. And you all have a copy of the quarterly schedule. That looks good. All right, we'll do that. We'll move that date. And then next up, we have appointment policy review update. So we wanted to talk about, so we had a change on the appointment on number 5 where we striked out some language and added some new language. And the board has had a moment to review that. Any questions or comments?
That's just what we discussed previously, and now we're seeing the writing. So just to
Yep.
approve it.
All right. If there isn't any discussions, I can take a motion.
I move the board vote to approve the policy called appointments by select board as presented.
Second.
Motion made second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Declare the motion carried. Okay. Next up here, so for the members of the public who are still awake and watching our meeting, and for the 4 brave souls who are still out in the audience, thank you. We have tomorrow fire chief interviews here starts at 6 p.m. So tonight we wanted to talk about fire chief interview questions, just a discussion about if there was any questions that the board wanted to ask the applicants. How it wants to go about doing that. Send them to Evan. Evan can have them ready for us tomorrow. We'll have a list of the questions and we'll just agree prior to bringing the first person in, just on the order and who's going to read what questions. Anybody have any questions on the fire interview questions? You guys got to arm wrestle for a tiebreaker, but I'll go with Colleen first because she's right.
Yeah, and the two of us. Just
Yeah, we're very hopped up on Quincy right now. So
would have been nice
Go
to have
ahead,
a
you can
coffee.
go first.
I-
It's
I'm
probably the
parched.
same question,
Yeah.
so it's fine.
I would be in favor of us not taking turns reading questions. And that's what we did in this selection process. In the set of interviews we already did, we assigned one person to read all of the questions, and it provided a good level of continuity that I would like to see this go around. And that provides us an opportunity to think about any potential follow-up questions instead of worrying about what we're being assigned to read. And I recommend that it could possibly be Evan that reads the questions. And it's late, so you might just say yes.
If that's what the board wants,
Right.
whatever you'd like.
What does the board want to do?
Can I weigh in?
Doreen?
So I was gonna say the same thing. I think one person should read the questions, and not that I'm opposed to Evan, but my first choices would be either Colleen, because she was a representative on the committee, or Peter as chair.
I don't mind reading the questions, if the board wants to do it.
So we're gonna send questions to Evan tomorrow?
Yeah.
And that's it?
That would be ideal if you want to add.
No, that's fine.
questions.
No, that's fine.
I can collate them into a.
So same process as last time, except we have a single person reading them.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine.
I totally agree with that.
Yep.
Evan, Colleen, or me? What's your choice?
Got you off the hook.
I
Reading.
don't care. Doesn't matter to me.
It's a person reading questions. I don't have an opinion.
Yep. As long as there's just one person, I'm happy with whoever it is.
I don't mind doing it.
Whatever you'd like.
Great.
I
Fine.
figure it's our.
You're it,
our
Peter.
interview,
You're it,
it's
man.
our.
It's all
I think
you.
One of us should do it. All right, I'll do it. Fine. Okay, we'll do that. Moving forward. All right. Last but not least, I put this on here last minute. I received correspondence. I didn't know if the board was interested in wanting to have a workshop on meeting decorum. So, if you want to table this for another discussion for next week, maybe we can expand
that
on a
would
bit
do-
more.
that
Or
would-
what do you want to do?
Yeah, I think
This warrants a good conversation,
Yes.
and I would not want to do it now.
let's
But I
move it
do
to
wanna-
next week.
I do
Me
wanna
too.
give it-
Me too.
Sounds good. Okay, we will do that. And we'll table that for next week, and we don't have any meeting minutes to.
You have one
we
set
do.
of meeting
Oh, we have
Yes,
one
we do.
meeting minutes for January 4th of 2022. Do I have a motion to approve those meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve meeting minutes for January 4, 2022. Any discussion on those meeting minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Declare the motion carried. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay.
Moved.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
No.
Moved.
Then I can have a second.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Declare the motion carried. Good night, everyone. Thank you very much.